Notes and queries, a medium of intercommunication for literary men, artists, antiquaries, genealogists, etc. When found, make a note of Captain Cuttle. Volume 3rd, January, June 1851, index to the 3rd volume. A. On Anthony, 229. On the Psalm Winifreda, 155. A. On Dutch folklore, 387. On Martin family, 29. On swords used in dress, 29. On Moore's Almanac, 381. On the family of Donne, 143. On wages in the last century, 143. Abbots in the English Church, 304. A Bales what? 243. Abel represented with horns, 391. Abercrombie, the Two Doctors, 209. Abba on the works of Dr. Miller, 136. On Standfast's Cordial Comforts, 143. On Old Tract on the Eucharist, 191. On Madden's Reflections, 323. On Legend in Freddenham Church, 506. Ace of Diamonds, Its Origin, 142. On Mistletoe on Oaks, 192. On the phrase, Under the Rose, 213. On a passage in The Tempest, 229. On Sitting Cross-Legged, 230. On Straw Necklaces, 253. On the Family of Peyton, 186. On Paring Nails on Sunday, 341. Achilles and the Tortoise, 484. On the Redwing's Nest, 408. Adam of Bremen, His Itinerary, 238. Adam of St. Victor's Poem on the Cross, 89. Adams, Rev. W. Date of his death, 140. 249. King's Messengers, grounded on a Greek tale, 135. Adamson, John, on the Works of Camoens, 18. Adair, its Etymology, 30. 152. Egrotus on the Vellum-bound Junius, 378. H. On a Curious Disquisition on Church Bells, 431. On the Letters of Bishop Crewe, 23. On Notices of Bishop Frampton, 214. On Fronte Capillata, N.C., 8. On Midwives Licensed, 29. On Velicinus, 29. Aesopus Epulens, its authorship, 478. A.F.R. On the author of Peter Wilkins, 13. On Old Booty, 93. On Bunyan's Knowledge of Hobbes, 70. On Histoire de Severams, 148. On Dr. King's poem The Toast, 13. A.F.S. On the Writers in the North Britain, 409. A.H.M. On the Meaning of Mosaic, 389. A.J.D. On a Cardinal's Monument, 106. A.J.T. On Epitaph on Rev. J. Mar, 248. Ackerman J. Y. On Queen Anne's Farthings, 83. Allen, on Prayer of Mary Queen of Scots, 504. Alarm, derivation of 30. Albans St. Law Courts at 466. Allen's Cardinal, Declaration, 11. Alliteration, specimen of, from Quarles, 340. Almsdish, an inscription on an, 101. Alphabetum Divini Amoris, 86. Altar Lights, N.C., 68. America, Prophecy Respecting Its Discovery, 464. Amicus Plato, Origin of the Sentiment, 389. 468. Anatole on Defoe's Anticipations, 338. Anatolicus on Tobacco in the East, 306. Andrews, St. Cross, 221. Anecdotes of Old Times, 275. Engels, Their Original Country, 326. Engetus de Linesci, 141. Anne Queen, A Note on Her Farthings, 83. Annoy, used as a noun, 43. Anonymous Ravenez, Notice, 462. Anonymous Works, The Monthly Intelligencer, 37, Theological Tracts, 61. Anstruther, Robert, on the Regal Title. Defender of the Faith. 9. Antediluvian History Wanted, 330. Anticipations of Modern Ideas or Inventions, 62. 69, 137. 195, 287. 338. Anti-Jacobin, Authors of the Poetry of the, 334. 348, 349. 396, 431. Antiquitas Seculi Juventus Mundi, 125. 156. Apodlix on Cockade, 42. Apple Pie Order, Origin of the Phrase, 330. 468, 485. Après moi le déluge, 299. 397. Apricot, Its Etymology, 75. Apuleius, Translations of, 76. Archaeus on Aristophanes on the Modern Stage, 251. Aristophanes on the Modern Stage, 105. 198, 230. 504. Aristotle and Pythagoras, 352. Arthur Seat and Salisbury Craigs, 119. 251. Articles, an old entry of having read the 39, 237. Articles and Canons of 1571, 491. Arun on Butler's Hudibras in 1710, 166. On the Derivation of Carnaby, 495. On George Herbert and Leighton Church, 178. On Disinterment for Heresy, 240. On Closing Rooms After Death, 248. On St. John's Bridge Fair, 287. On Edmund Prideaux and the Post Office, 267. On Separation of Sexes in Churches, 288. On the Tanthony, 308. On Netherland Dock Out, 368. On Pilgrim's Road to Canterbury, 429. On Going to Old Weston, 449. On the Tanthony Bell, 105. 308. On Metrical Psalms and Hymns, 119. Association, the Principle of, 424. 507. Athelney Castle, Somersetshire, 478. A. T. W. On the Quotation. Too Wise to Err, 279. Avena on Aristophanes on the Modern Stage, 504. On St. Paul's Clock Striking 13, 449. Aventurier, O U la Barbe Bluey, 74. Aver, Its Etymology, 42. 157, 291. A. X. Y. On the Damask Linen of James 2, 13. Auriga, Its Meaning, 188. 253, 483. A. W. On Bench. Wheeler's Theological Lectures, 39. On Medal given to Howard, 142. On Predeceased and Designed, 143. Away, let not to love displeasing. The Authorship, 27. I at St. Lawrence Church, 135. Asselin, Cardinal, Notices of, 370. 458. B. B. On King John at Lincoln, 291. On Handbells at Funerals, 310. On Tick Hill, God Help Me, 340. On Vineyards in England, 341. On Stepney Ale, 449. On Handbell Before a Corpse, 68. B. A. On Duchess of Buckingham, 438. On the title Alterius Orbis Papa, 497. On the authorship of Lucy and Colin, 7. On lines attributed to Viscount Palmerston, 28. On Porson's Imposition, 28. Babin the Bowster, The Dance, 45. 282. Babington's Conspiracy, 390. 458. Back, Simon, Quondam Thesaurarius Hospitii, 105. 155. Bacon, Origin of the family name, 41. 151. Bacon and Fagin, the origin of, 106. 483. Bactria, history of, wanted, 353. 435. B. A. E. On illustrations of Chaucer, 201. 235. 258. 316. 345. 385. 419. 473. 515. On Chaucer's Temple Why Made of Glass, 362. On an early instance of the word news, 300. On the word prenzy in Shakespeare, 455. On Shakespeare's words captious and untenable, 497. On Shakespeare's Love's Labour's Lost, 163. On Touchstone Dial, 107. B. A. H. On the Neville family, 24. Baldrock's Wooden what? 328. 435. 503. Ballads, Ancient and Edited, 134. 203. 219. 320. Traditional English, 49. 208. Balliolensis on Dunbar and Endymion Porter, 303. Balsall, its Etymology, 373. Banks, Sir John, Family of, 390. 458. 507. 524. Barker, the Panorama Painter, 406. 483. Barker G. H. On a Ballad ascribed to Sir C. H. Williams, 59. Barlaam and Josaphat, a Greek Tale, 135. 278. 396. Barnes W. On Carved Ceiling in Dorsetshire, 481. Baronet, its meaning, 450. Barry J. Milner, on Friday Weather, 7. Bartolus Learn Man Defended, where commended, 224. Barton, Mrs. Catherine, her maiden name, 328. 434. Bassinet of Eton, 495. Bataille in Arms, 278. Bateman, Gregory, on Poem on the Grave, 460. Baxter, Richard, Notice of his Works, 370. Bay on the Banks Family, 524. Bailey, B.P. His Portrait, 8. W.M. D'Oyly, on Lady Jane of Westmoreland, 268. On the Families of D'Oyly and Barry, 23. B. On Cromwell's Compact with the Devil, 207. On the word prenzy in Shakespeare, 456. C. On Diseases Cured by Sheep, 367. On the Anti-Jacobin, 396. On Demosthenes and the New Testament, 397. On Bactrian coins, 435. On Sallust, 466. On Amicus Plato, 458. On Meaning of Pilcher, 507. 525. On Antiquity of Smoking, 507. On Principle of Association, 507. On Corpse Making a Right of Way, 507. On Probabilism, 122. On Toadflax, 42. On Wispy, Gothland, 75. On the Time when Herodotus wrote, 76. On Cum Grano Salis, 153. On Hoops, 153. On Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, 190. On Impatient to Speak and Not See, 213. On the Meaning of Eisel, 225. On Mistletoe on Oaks, 226. On Llama Beads, 229. On Language Given to Men, 229. On Lord Howard of Effingham, 244. On the proverb, Go the whole hog, 250. C. W. On Lady Bingham, 61. On Keynes Leasy, 141. On Foreign English, 346. On Modern Paper, 397. On Inscription on an Old Gun, 221. On King John at Lincoln, 141. On Snail Eating, 207. On a passage in Love's Labors Lost, 230. On a remarkable longevity, 237. On epitaph at Leghorn, 238. B. de M. On two sorts of knights, 425. On the meaning of baronet, 450. Bealby, H. M. Notes on newspapers, 164. Beard, Rev. Mr. Vicar of Greenwich, 140. Bear's Bible, inscription on the 329. Beatrix de Bradney, her marriage, 208. Beatrix Lady Talbot, her pedigree 10. Beauty Retire, by Pepys, 105. 155. Bede's Ecclesiastical History, Ancient MS. Of, 180. 247. Bega, Cornelius, Painting by, 28. Beggar's Petition, its authorship, 209. Bellarmine's Monstrous Paradox, 497. Bellman and His History, 324. 377. 451. 485. Bells and Churches, Notices of, 238. 339. 431. 432. 493. B. E. M. On Hill's Penny Post, 62. On Portraits of Spencer, 301. Benbow and the Bellman, 453. On Spick and Span New, 480. On Under the Rose, 480. On the Word Yankee, 461. Benedicite, Not One Word, 468. Bexley, Lord, How Descended from Cromwell, 185. 250. B. F. C. On San Marino, 376. B. G. On Gray's Alcaic Ode 4. B. G. H. On Lynch Law, 76. B. H. A. On Queen Elizabeth's Christening Cloth, 115. On the Heywood Family, 263. On Monosyllables, 165. On Mistletoe on Oaks, 226. On a Poem Among the Papers of Sir K. Digby 18. 238. 367. On Curious Omen at Marriage, 406. On Inscription on Tomb of Peter the Hermit, 329. B. H. J. On Traditional Notice of Richard III, 207. Bibliographical Queries 86. 138. 182. 326. 525. 526. By Cedar, Its Etymology, 518. Biddings in Wales, 114. 207. Bigod de Loges, 266. 306. 434. Bingham, Lady, 61. 156. 229. Binsey, God help me! 44. Birth of 7 children 3 times following, 347. 10 children at A, 64. 192. Bishop's Lands 87. B. J. On Parentage of Arthur Pomeroy, 303. B. J. C. On Portrait of Francis Moore, 340. 381. On the Family of the Tradescants, 119. B. J. M. Whether Quarles was pensioned. 11. On Touchstone's Dial, 196. B. J. S. On Dutch Church in Norwich, 340. On Preserving Existing Monuments, 314. Black Images of the Virgin, 63. Black Rood of Scotland, 104. Blackguard, Its Meaning, 44. Blackstone's Commentaries and a Table of Precedents, 209. Blake Family, Notices of, 389. Blood, the discovery of its circulation attributed to Solomon, 340. Blowen on Cockade and True Blue, 71. On the Etymology of Grossun, 76. On Coins of Richard Cromwell, 89. On the Origin of the Name Blowen, 106. On the Passage in Mark 13. 32. 110. On Lammer Beads, 115. On the Episcopal Mitre, 145. On Cardinal Beaufort, 169. On True Blue, 194. On Cockade, 196. On Hook and by Crook, 212. On Hugh Peters' Last Legacy, 214. On Salisbury Craigs, 251. On Moorfields and Charles II. S. Time, 260. On Foreign English, 275. On Abbot Eustachius, 307. On Meaning of Waste Book, 307. On the History of Bactria, 353. On the Phrase, Giving the Lie, 369. On Swearing by the Peacock, 438. On Meaning of Gig Hill, 462. On Laus to Anon to a Fraus, 466. On the Visions of Hell, 289. On Fees at Westminster Abbey, 276. Blunder, The Origin of the Word, 106. B. M. W. On Record of Existing Monuments, 514. On the Meaning of Tick, 502. B. N. On Experto Creed Roberto, 353. On the Authorship of Aesopus Epulens, 478. On the Meaning of Gig, 284. Bockett, Julia R. On Beatrix de Bradney, 208. On Record of Existing Monuments, 217. On Notices of George Stevens, 230. Bogatsky, Notice of, 478. 526. Boiling to Death, 153. Bolton, ABP, Information Respecting, 39. 72. Bonnie Cravat, Sign of In, 351. Books, Notes on, 489. Book Plates before 1698, 495. Booty's Case 40. 93. 170. Border on Epigram against Burke, 243. On the Countess of Desmond, 250. On a Passage in Marmion, 203. On the Lay of the Last Minstrel, 364. Beta Omicron Rho Epsilon Alpha on Bibliographical Queries, 326. Barrow's Danish Ballads, 168. 228. Bafield Beriah, on St. Clair, 182. Bourne's, Vincent, Translation of Lucia E. T. Corydon, 7. Boyd, Zachary, Notices of, 500. B. P. On Langley's Polydor Virgil, 137. On Periodical Literature, A. Died in 1707, 323. On Archbishop Sancroft, 323. On Sir Henry Slingsby, 323. Braithwaite, Latin Drinking Song by, 297. 341. Robin Goodfellow, 403. Brandon the Juggler, 154. Braybrook, Lord, on the Authorship of Away, Let Not to Love Displeasing, 27. On Forwant Way, 434. On Portraits of Distinguished Englishmen, 233. On the Psalm Winifreda, 108. On Beauty Retire, 155. Britch's Bible, its translators, 17. 72, 93. 115. 165. Breen, Henry H., on the Plagiarisms in Gray's Elegy, 35. 445. On the Etymology of Bicester, 518. On Dodo Queries, 70. On the Use of Monosyllables, 57. On a Recent Novel, 74. Tablet to Napoleon, 74. On the Meaning of Extradition, 119. On Bishop Nicholson's Opinion of Bishop Burnet, 136. On the Meaning of Sangaree, 141. On the Phrase, Stick at Nothing, 278. On the Expression, E Justum Farini, 278. On Passage in Oldham, 372. On Obeism, 376. On Notices of the Buccaneers, 380. On Verses in Pope's Dunciad, 387. On Supposed Inscription in St. Peter's, 425. On Gray's plagiarisms, 445. On Count Xavier de Maistre, 467. On a passage in Sedley's poems, 476. On two passages in Dryden, 492. On Carrel d'Allemand, 495. On a passage in Bellarmine, 497. On Epitaph on Voltaire, 518. On the situation of Voltaire, 525. Brewhouse Antiquities, 447. Brewster, Waldegrave, on Parish Register Tax, 94. On Clergy Sold for Slaves, 94. On North Side of Churchyards, 125. On the Scaliger's, 133. Bridges, Anthony, who was he? 278. Brighton, its ancient position, 388. Britannicus, its orthography, 275. 310. 463. 502. British Museum, letters on, its author, 208. 461. Britain, J., on Strutt's Queen Who Hall, 105. Brown, William, June, on Pallavicino and Count de Olivares, 523. Brown's Britannia's Pastorals, 274. Brown, Mr., Epitaph on, 320. Brown, T., his letter on the MS. Of the Articles, 491. Browns of Cowdray, Sussex, 66. 194. 307. Bruce, John, on the Church of St. Saviour's, Canterbury, 12. Bruce, W. Downing, on Hugh Peachell and Sir John Marsham, 407. Bruckner, Rev. J. List of his works wanted, 209. Bruno on Barrow's Danish Ballads, 168. On Theory of the Earth's Form, 331. B. R. W. On Mounds or Months, 187. On the First Use of Organs, 518. B.S. J. On the Epigram. Cor Lingui. And C. 168. On Jurat? Creed minus 193. On Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 197. B.S.S. On the Christmas Thorn, 367. B.T. J. On Babington's Conspiracy, 390. Buck, Sir George, his treatise on the stage, 187. Buccaneers, account of, 380. Buchan's collection of ballads, 51. Buckden, Abbot's House at 45. Buckingham, Duchess of, 224. 249, 280. 438. Buckman, James, on the Mistletoe on the Oaks, 226. On Sacramental Wine, 320. Bullen's Drinking Horn, Inquiry Respecting, 38. Burke, Epigram against, 243. 284. And the Annual Registers, 441. Mighty Boar of the Forest, 493. Burns's poem, The Vision, supposed plagiary in 206. Bunting's Irish Melodies, 167. Bunyan, John, not the author of Visions of Hell, 70. 89. 289. 467. 567. His Portrait, 89. Burnet, Bishop, Conflicting Judgment on, 136. History of His Own Times, 87. Burning the Hill, 123. Burroughs, W.M. Monumental Inscription on, 223. Burt, Henry M. On Fronte Capillata, 140. Burt, Joseph, on Haybands and Seals, 381. Burton, Robert, His Birthplace, 106. 157. 395. Burying in Church Walls, 37. 156. Butcher Duke a Song, its authorship, 8. 77. Butchers not jurymen, 408. Butler Bishop on a passage in 44. Butler's Hudibras in 1710, 166. B. V. On the Vellum-bound Junius, 262. 307. B. W. on a cardinal's monument, 169. B. W. H. on small by degrees and beautifully less, 105. By and by, its meaning, 73. 109, 193. 229. 433. Byfield's Letter on the Civil War, 303. Beta Omicron Rho Epsilon Alpha. A. D. C. C. On Duchess of Buckingham, 230. On Lady Mary Cavendish, 509. On List of Comets, 253. On Cockade, 292. On Cowdray, 307. On Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 308. On Richardson, Tickell, and Fitzpatrick, 334. On Pictorial Antiquities, 423. On Authors of the Anti-Jacobin Poetry, 431. On Ramas, 434. On Deans, when styled Very Reverend, 437. On the Howe family, 438. On Westchester, 460. On Paring Nails on Sundays, 462. On Vineyards in England, 483. On the Derivation of Covey, 509. C. A. On Ayot St. Lawrence Church, 135. On the Best Rifles, 517. On Noble Names and Workhouses, 350. On the Ancient Position of Brighton, 388. On Omissions in Murray's Handbook for Devon and Cornwall, 4. CASA. On the San Grail, 281. Cashcope Bell, its meaning, 407. Cad, its derivation, 46. Cahagnet M. L. Alf, 167. Calmet on Annotators on Mark 13. 32, 8. Camden Family, 39. 125, 253. Camoens, Louis de, Editions of his Works, 18. Campbell, Duncan, Notices of, 248. Campkin, Henry, on Davy Jones's Locker, 478. On Hogan, 450. Notes on Jesse's London, 84. On Brother Jonathan, 495. Whether St. Paul's clock ever struck 1340. On Engraved Portrait by Cross, 209. C. A. N. On the Family of William Penn, 409. Keynes Lisi, Blunt's Explanation, 141. 212. Canon and Prebendary, Difference between, 242. Cardinals' Hats, 44. 106. 169. 182. Cardinals in the English Church, 304. Carfooks, its meaning, 469. 508. Carling Sunday, its meaning, 449. Carmichael, Lady Alice, what became of her? 60. Carnaby, its derivation, 495. Casterton Church, on a stone in the chancel, 181. Catacombs and Bone Houses, 483. Catalogues of Books, their Utility, 101. Cato, on the Meaning of Christ's Cross A, 330. C. A. U. on W. M. Penn's Family, 264. Costin H. K. Staple, on the Meaning of Eisel, 210. Cavalier's Farewell, on the Authorship, 34. Cavendish, Lady Mary, Her Ancestry, 477. 509. Cavendo on the Ancestry of Lady Mary Cavendish, 477. Cayley G. J. on Swearing by Swans, 29. On the Welsh Shuriwile, 20. C. D. on the Word Ramas, for 64. On the Plant Chumpik, 486. On Sixes and Sevens, 118. C. D. on Geographers on Afric's Downs, 485. Sebes on the Word Prenzy, 522. Sephen, its meaning as a prefix, 152. Sealing, a carved one in Dorsetshire, 424. 481. C. F. T. on Sanathiel, 303. C. G. I. on the Mythology of the Stars, 23. ch. on The Widow of the Wood, 13. On Henry VIII. And Sir Thomas Kirwan, 323. On the Extinction of Villenage, 327. Lines on Woman's Will, 285. On John Sanderson, or the Cushion Dance, 286. On Solid Hoofed Pigs, 357. Ch. on the First Earl of Shaftesbury, 186. On the Family of Sir George Downing, 213. Ch. Man on Colfabias, 390. Chads St. Church Stowe, 90. Chadwick, Sir Andrew, was he knighted by Queen Anne? 141. 247. Ch. on Derivation of Aver, 292. Chaffers W. June on the Bulwark, 503. On Forwant Way, 508. Chalices of Stone, 481. Chimpic, what is it? 448. 486. Chancellors, 2 at the same time, 257. Chantries, suppressed, 24. Chapel, Printing Office, 7. Charles I. His Love of the Fine Arts, 236. Chadwick, John Nurse, on MS. Collections of Goddard's History of Lynn, 140. On Sir Andrew Chadwick, 141. On Norfolk Folklore Rhymes, 206. On Baldrocks, 435. Charles II. Was he ever in Wales? 263. 379. Charles XII. Medal struck by, 26. Chaucer and Gray, coincidence between, 493. Tomb of, 188. Note on Palamon and Arcite, 131. 201. 252. On an astronomical allegory and complaint of Mars and Venus, 235. 258. 306. 385. His 50 Weeks. 252. The Pilgrimage to Canterbury, 315. 515. The Ark of Artificial Day, 345. Prophetical View of the Crystal Palace, 361. The Star Min el Alwa, 419. The Armorican Wordmenes for 73. Ch. B. On Umbrellas, 37. On Booty's Case, 170. Ch. C. On Origin of Harlequins, 287. Chepstow Castle, on its being betrayed, 241. Cherubim and Seraphim, 27. Chettle, Henry, Notice of 54. Ch. G. R. On Lancelot Littleton, 330. Children's Petition, the Authorship, 117. Shilcutt, William, Inquiries Respecting, 38. 73. 212. Ch.K.S. On the Meaning of Isel, 66. Chloe, who was Chloe? 449. 507. Christ's Cross A. Its meaning, 330. 465. Christmas Day, its origin, 167. 249. Christmas Thorn, 367. Churchwarden on Baldrocks and Thanksgiving Book, 328. Churchyards burying on the north sides of 74. 125. 332. 333. C.I.B. On Herstmans's Castle, 75. Cinquante Lettre d'Exhortation, its authorship, 169. Circulation of the Blood, 27. Civil War Garrisons, Sketches of, 143. C.J. On Christmas Day, 167. On a Coggeshall Job, 167. On Dumore Castle, 496. On Abbey of Shap, 7. C.J. E. On Private Memoirs of Queen Elizabeth, 23. C.J. H. On Spenser's Faerie Queen, 369. On Sundry Quotations, 388. On the Meaning of Crambo, 391. C.J. N. on the expression, as drunk as Chloe, 449. On St. John's Bridge Fair, 469. On the honor of Clare, 390. On the wife of James Torrey, 434. C. J. P. On the family of Sir George Downing, 69. C. K. On Dr. H. Tyndall's epitaph, 493. Clancy, Major, his life, 42. Clare, St. Church dedicated to her in Cornwall, 182. Clark, Hyde, on Cardinal Chalmers, 44. Clark, J. On ring dials, 107. Clark, Rev. Samuel, portrait of, 209. 284. Clarkson, historian of Richmond, his Mrs., 373. 507. Classical literature, a word to literary men for recovering unpublished, 161. 261, 340. Clemenson, its antiquity, 84. 169. Clench family, particulars wanted, 188. Clergy sold for slaves, 94. Clerical costume, 29. Clock in Exeter Cathedral, inscription on A, 329. Clocks, when self-striking were invented, 372. C. M. A. On Cromwell family, 242. C. O. On Anthony Bridges, 278. Cobham family, discrepancies in Dugdale's account of, 53. Cock scares the fiend, 404. Cockade, its origin, 7. 42, 71. 96. 196. 292. Coggeshall job, the saying, 167. 285. Cognation of the Jews and Lacedaemonians, 172. Coins of Canute, catalogue of, 326. 525. Of Richard Cromwell, 89. German, 119. Of George III, 275. 310. 391. Guinea of George III, inscription on, 391. Rarity of William IV. S. Copper, 136. Coleridge's opinion of Defoe, 136. And the Penny Post, 27. Religious Musings, 115. Table Talk passage in, 518. Calfabias, its meaning, 390. 482. Collar of SS 42. Collar the Logician, particulars wanted, 185. Collector on the Travels of Baron Munchausen, 305. Collier, J. Payne, on the Defense of the Execution of Mary, Queen of Scots, 113. On the Royal Courtly Garland, 1. Collier, Rev. R. Lines attributed to, 28. Coleman, J. B. On the Frozen Horn, 91. On Baker's Dozen, 520. On the locality of Gillingham, 505. On St. Paul's Clock, 153. On the Descent of Henry IV, 171. On the Election of a Pope, 253. On Edmund Prideaux and the Post Office, 268. On Quebeca and his Epitaph, 459. On Thanksgiving Book, 481. On Sir Cloudesley Shovel, 45. Comenius History of Bohemian Persecution, 11. 45. Comets, list of, 223. 253. 306. Commandments, the division of the 10, 166. 230. 412. Commoner marrying a peeress, 436. Concert of Nature, 69. Conquest, Post Conquestum, 30. Conquestum, its original meaning, 92. 170. Contracted names of places, 182. Cooper C. H. On Defender of the Faith, 28. On the word culprit, 44. On touching for the evil, 148. On the conquest, 170. On dog's head in the pots, 264. Biographical notices of Thomas May, 280. On Tradesmen's Signs, 285. On St. John's Bridge Fair, 341. On the Bellman and His History, 377. 485. On Disinterment for Heresy, 378. On Charles Lamb's Epitaph, 379. On the 15 O's, 391. On the expression, going tick, 409. On the presentation of gloves, 424. On the phrase, by the by, 433. On round robin, 461. On registry of dissenting baptisms, 486. On corpse passing making a right of way, 520. On umbrellas, 126. Coptic language, 468. Cor Lingui, and c. Its authorship, 168. Corderoi on meaning of Zollverein, 451. Corner Gor, on forged papal bulls, 149. Corney, Bolton, on the utility of catalogues of books, 101. On the publication of De Navarchere, 114. On Sir Thomas Herbert's Memoirs, 157. On the Essay on Satire, 162. On Harrison's Chronology, 192. On the Threnodia Carolina of Sir T. Herbert, 259. On the Anti-Jacobin, 349. On Hugh Holland and His Works, 427. Corpse passing makes a right of way, 477. 507. 519. Courser Thomas, on Traditions from Remote Periods, 422. 475. On Green's Groatsworth of Wit, 479. Costume, Queries on 88. 155. Cotton Family, Arms of 39. 187. Cotton, H. On Archbishop Bolton of Cashel, 72. On Harrison's Chronology, 105. On Diary of Archbishop Loftus, 263. Collanges and Prior, Coincidence between, 446. Coverdale's Bible, 54. 122. Covey, Its Etymology, 477. 509. Cowgill on Christmas Day, 249. On Headings of Chapters in Bibles, 269. Biographical Notices of Thomas May, 279. On Predeceased and Designed, 287. On a Notice of St. Pancras, 397. On the Tanthony, 428. On Window Tax, Mints, and Knobs, 447. Cowley's Poem on Drinking, an Answer to, 55. Cooper, The Divine Chit-Chat of, 388. Krakow Pike, 118. 187. Crambo, Its Meaning, 391. Cranmere Pool, 404. Cranmer's Descendants, 8. 153. 188. Cranmore on Passage from Sibylline, 290. Crewe Bishop, Letters of, 23. On the customary disuse of his episcopal title, 128. Crex, The White Bull Ace, 451. Crickets, 3. Criston, in Somersetshire, 278. 357. Cromwell Oliver, His Compact with the Devil, 207. 282. Family, 242. Curious Epigrams on, 515. Cross, engraved portrait by on whom? 209. 284. Cross between a wolf and hound, 39. 93. Crossbill, Queries respecting, 188. Crossley, James, on Dr. Timothy Thrush-Gross, 44. On History of Bohemian Persecution, 45. On Burke and the Annual Register, 441. On Earth Has No Rage, 45. On Couplet and Defoe, 45. On Histoire de Severams, 72. On Verses attributed to Charles York, 72. On Lucy and Colin, 76. On a quotation from Brown's Essay on Satire, 110. On Dr. Trussler's Memoirs, 110. On a sonnet supposed to be Milton's, 142. On Dryden's essay upon satire, 146. On Brandon the Juggler, 154. On Words Are Men's Daughters, 154. On the Scaliger's, 193. On Defoe's Anticipations of Modern Ideas, 195. On Deus Justificatus, 195. On Monarchia Solipsorum, 197. On Nettleton, Doc Out, 205. On Manuscript of Bede, 247. Notes on Newspapers, 248. On Duncan Campbell, 248. On M.S. Sermons by Jeremy Taylor, 249. On Dryden's Absalom and Achitophel, 249. On Meaning of Waste Book, 251. On Salgado's Slaughterhouse, 284. On Sir Balthazar Gerbier, 304. On Captain John Stevens, 306. On A History of Comets, 306. On Edmund Prideaux and the Post Office, 308. On Epitaph and Hall's Discovery, 338. On Letters on the British Museum, 461. On the Image of Both Churches, 469. On the Word Colfabias, 482. C. R. W. On the Arms of the Cotton Family, 187. On the Spelling of Britannicus, 275. On Curious Facts in Natural History, 398. 467. C. T. On Fronte Capillata, and c. 92. On Mark for $1, 449. On 2 Autumn, 308. On Places Called Purgatory, 308. Cuickful in Flandria, where? 238. Culprits Torn by Horses, 91. 92. Culprit, Origin of the Word, 44. Cumming, Sir Alexander, 39. 152. Cunningham, P. On the Verses. Pura Linda, and c. 264. On the Outer Temple, 375. Curfew Bell, 77. Curse of Scotland, 22. 423. 483. Curwen, Sir Thomas, an excellent archer, 323. Curwen family, 89. 125. 253. Cushion Dance, 125. 286. C. W. H. On Cardinal Erskine, 13. On Nicholas Ferrer's Digest, 12. C. W. W. On Francis Moore, 466. CX. On May Katz, 84. On the Titles of Spiritual Peers, 118. D. D. On Cardinal Allen's Declaration, 11. On Ring Dials, 196. Delta. On King Richard III, 300. On Sim, Furling, Grasson, 75. On Sir T. Herbert's Memoirs of Charles I, 260. On the Tanthony Bell, 429. On the Use of the Word Umbrella, 509. D. 2. On the Etymology of Aver, 42. On Filthy Jingram, 42. On the Meaning of Gulls, 143. D. A. On Poem on the Grave, 372. D. A. A. On the Hand Giving the Blessing, 477. On Diogenes in his Tub, 449. On Skeletons at Egyptian Banquet, 424. On Topical Memory, 449. On Vegetable Sympathy, 407. On the Phrase to A.T. 424. Daffy Down Dilly, a Nursery Rhyme, 220. 259. Damask Linen of James II, 13. 229. Dancing Trenchmore, its Meaning, 89. 437. Darby and John Ballad, 38. 69. Darcy Lever Church, 27. Daresbury, The Whitechapel of England, 60. 229. Davy June S.N. On House Arithmetic, 409. Davies Sir John, Arms of, 409. And his biographers 82. 336. Davy Jones's Locker, 478. 509, D. C. W. On Coleridge and the Penny Post, 27. D. E. A. On Henry Chettle, 54. On William Shokett, 73. On Fronte Capillata, 124. On Dominicals, 25. On the motto, God speed the plough, 8. On Long Meg of Westminster, 22. On Shakespeare's Word, Captious, 153. Dean's, when first styled Very Reverend, 352. 437. Death of Death's Painter, 495. Death, Representations of, 450. 501. Deer, Fossil, of Ireland, 26. 121. 212. 502. D. E. H. D. On the Coptic Language, 468. On King of Nineveh burned in his palace, 506. On Epitaph in Kellely Churchyard, 422. Defender of the Faith. Its Ancient Use, 9. 28, 94. 157. Defoe, Coleridge's Opinion of, 136. Couplet in 45. Project for Purifying the English Language, 350. Anticipations of Modern Ideas, 137. 195. Demonologist on Booty's Case, 40. Demosthenes' Oration Against, 141. 227. Denarii, 25. Denarius Philosophorum, 168. 251. 299. Derby Coinage, 225. Designed, whether used as designated, 143. 287. Desmond, the Countess of, 250. 341. Deus Justificatus, its author, 195. Devil's Bit, its origin, 477. Devonshire Charms, 258. D. G. H. On Robert de Welly, 458. D. H. W. On the Red Hand, 194. On Touching for the Evil, 197. On Damask Linen, 229. On Straw Necklaces, 229. On Rag Sunday in Sussex, for 25. On the Waistcoat Bursted, 230. On the Couplet, The Feast of Reason, 265. Dials, Ring 52. 107. 108. 196. Diamagnetism, its etymology, 169. Dibdin's Library Companion, Errors in 405. Dies Irae, its authorship, 468. Dieu et Mondroit, when first adopted, 407. Deformis, its signification, 24. Digby Sir Kenelm, Poems discovered among his papers, 18. 238. 367. 482. Digby's Broad Stone of Honor, 264. Diogenes in his Tub, 449. Disinterment for Heresy, 240. 378. Dis-on Cross between a Wolf and a Hound, 93. Ditchfield, J. B. On Black Images of the Virgin, 63. Dixon, Hepworth, Notices of the Blake Family, 389. On the Penn Family, 454. D. J. On Whichcote of St. John's, 302. D. J. B. On the Meaning of Bacon, 151. D. M. On Some Quique Tribuaire, and C. 518. D. N. On 10 Children at a Birth, 64. D. N. W. On the Episcopal Mitre, 145. On a Cardinal's Hat, 170. On By Hook and by Crook, 212. On the Word Yankee, for 61. Dobbin Dr. O. T. On the Ulm Manuscript, 60. Dodd Dr. His Texts at Wing Church, 182. Dodd, The Historian, 496. Dog's Head in the Pot, 264. 463. Dogs, Their Howling an Omen of Death, 4. Doll Black Sign at Old Store Shops, 63. $sign, 449. 505. Dominicals, 25. Don of Pitfishy, The Family, 143. Dorothea S., Life of, 87. Dort, Epigram on the Synod of, 23. 94. Double Names, Their Origin, 407. Doubtful on the Witch's Prayer, 118. Douglas J. A. On the White Rose, 505. Douglas Goen, A Complete Edition of his Works a Desideratum, 38. Dousa, Janice, On the Dutch Versions of English Essayists, 22. Transcript of a Letter Respecting John Locke, 97. On Crossing Rivers on Skins, 3. Poem on Sydney, 23. Downing, Sir George, His Family, 68. 213. D'Oyly and Berry Families, Information Wanted, 23. Dozen of Bread, 153. 520. D. Q. On Dr. Dodd's Texts, 182. On Shakespeare's Meaning of Strained, 269. On Lord Howard of Effingham, 244. On Fitzpatrick's Lines on Fox, 432. On Witchcraft, 414. On Preserving Existing Monuments, 314. D. Q. E. On the Word Litis, 446. Drachmaris, One of the Schoolmen, 105. 157. 194. Dragons, 40. 157. Drake's Historia Anglo-Scotica, 519. Dredge, John I. On Portrait of Rev. S. Clark, 284. On Nicholas Ferrer's Concordance, 12. On Patrick's Tract on the Eucharist, 214. Dress, A Note on, 406. Court, 407. 457. Drumleth Glass on Roman Catholic Bishops in Ireland, 167. Dryden's Absalom and Achitophel, 249. Essay upon Satire, 146. 162. Poems, on two passages in, 492. D.S. T. On the Author of Pursuits of Literature, 240. On the Author of School of the Heart, 390. On Representations of Death, 450. Dumore Castle, or the Petrified Fort, 495. Dunbar, Epigram by, 303. Duncan, Alfred John, on Preserving a Record of Existing Monuments, 313. Durham's Sword That Killed the Dragon, 425. 485. Dutch books published out of the Netherlands, 326. 379. Church in Norwich, Its History, 209. 310. 396. Martyrology, Early Copies, 443. 479. Song Book, De Zingen Lutsman of de Vrolijk Boer, 23. 189. Dutch Versions of English Essayists, 22. D. W. B. On Aristophanes on the Modern Stage. 198. Dyer, Thomas H. On Erasmus and Farrell, 73. Delta. E. E. On Blackstone's Commentaries, 209. Epsilon. Note of Palamon and Arcite, 131. E. A. On the Origin of Cockades, 7. Here, The Advantages of a Bad, 140. Early Rain, The Pride of the Morning, 484. Earth Has No Rage. N.C. A Couplet, 23. Earth Thrown Upon the Coffin, 408. 499. Earth's Form, Theory of, 331. 508. Eastwood, J. On Circulation of the Blood, 27. Eboli, Latin Epigram on the Duchess of, 208. 289. On Incora and Millicent, 448. On Expedi Herculum, 380. On Nebsend, 434. On Folklore in Lancashire, 516. On Eating Pigeons Before Death, 517. On tandem D. O. M. 173. On the word rub-a-dub 387. On tiring irons 210. Ebracombe on holy water for the whooping cough 220. On Daffy Down Dilly 220. Echo on Coverdale's Bible 54. On Britch's Bible 93. On Daresbury the Whitechapel of England 229. On a passage in Gray's Elegy 138. On Judas Cup 85. E. C. J. On Abel represented with horns 391. On Legend in Freddenham Church 407. Eclectic Review, Specimen of Composition 493. Edwards H. On Dr. Robert Tomlinson 290. On Drax Free School 290. E. E. J. On Gillingham 505. Eferus on the Butcher Duke 77. On The Soul's Dark Cottage 105. Ephesa on the Prince of Wales Feathers 106. On the Britch's Bible 115. Effigies, Translation of Charade Upon Nothing 369. On Clarkson's Papers 373. Egduff on Shakespeare's Meaning of Strained 269. Eginhard on Gregory the Great 62. Egg and Arrow Ornament 349. E. H. On Pedigree of Owen Glendower 356. On Richard Baxter's Works 370. On Queen Mary's Lament 172. On Swans Hatched During Thunder 75. Ain, Its Meaning 351. Irionac Notes on Ireland 490. Isel, Its Meaning 66. 119, 210. 225, 397. 474, 508. 524, E. J. On the Meaning of Heresus 252. On the Accession of Richard III 352. On Anachronisms of Painters 369. On the Phrase to Learn by Heart 483. E. Justum Farini, Origin of the Expression 278. 433, E. K. P. D. On St. Hybald 495. On Mark for $1 504. On Milton and the Calves Head Club 390. On Ventriloquist Hoax 406. Elk Fossil 121. 212. Ellicombe H. T. On the Bulwark 503. On Chiming Bells 432. Elizabeth, Queen, Her Christening Cloth 115. Private Memoirs of 23. 45. Scandal Against 11. 151. 197. 225. 285. 307. Did she visit Bacon at Twickenham? 44. Elstob Miss Notice of 497. Emiot Family, Their Arms Wanted 478. Amen on Ballad Editing 208. On Folk Talk 474. On Plays in Churches 494. On a Life of St. Paul 451. In Cora and Millicent, Their Meaning 448. And Gastramathus on Father Hell and Cahagnet 167. On Father Maximilian Hell 269. Engelbert ABP, Treatise by 291. 379. English, Origin of the Present Race 116. Actors and Musicians in Germany 21. French, An Example of 437. Mother on the Flamberg Sword, N.C. 168. Enigmatical Epitaph on Rev. Dr. Marr 184. Inquirer on the Episcopal Mitre 62. And Twizel, Wilfred, Chauncey's Observations on 61. 171. Epitaph in Killilea Churchyard 422. 493. At Leghorn 238. On a Worthy Night 57. Equestrian statues, 494. Erasmus and Farrell, 38. 73. Erskine, Cardinal, 13. E. R. W. On the lines. A verse may find him. And c. 60. On north sides of churchyards, 74. On corpse passing making a right of way, 477. On seats in churches, 56. On the derivation of round robin, 353. On tradesmen's signs, 357. Eric's Queries on Tennyson, 493. Urza on Lady Flora Hastings' bequest, 443. Esquire, what amount of property constitutes 1, 242. Eshold Priory, account of 86. Eddy on Sir Henry Slingsby's diary, 357. Eddy the artist, his family, 496. Eucharist, authorship of an old tract on, 169. By John Patrick, 214. Eustachius, abbot, time when he flourished, 141. 307, 381. Evans, Rev. T. Simpson, on the life of Bishop Frampton, 61. Evergreens in Churches, 118. Evil Eye, the Superstition of, 133. Exhibition, the Great, a monster number of. Notes and Queries, 361. Hint for Protecting, 166. Exon on Disinterment for Heresy, 378. Exoniensis on the MS. Of De Bello Antiochino, 447. Experto Creed Roberto, Origin of the Saying, 353. Extradition, its meaning, 119. 169. Extraordinary North Britain, the Writers in, 409. 432. Epsilon. F. On the Seas of the Roman Church, 437. Falconer A. P. On Prayer of Mary Queen of Scots, 369. Falconer R. W. On Mistletoe, 396. Farquharson on Aurori, 28. F. C. D. On Cranmer's Descendants, 8. Feathers of the Prince of Wales, Origin of, 106. 168. Fell Colonel, his Descendants, 142. Fenton, John, on the Meaning of Mosaic, 469. Furling, its Etymology, 7. 75. Ferrers, Nicholas, Digest and Concordance, 12. And Bellows, 237. Ferrara, Andrea, his History, 62. Ferret, Names of the, 390. 461. Fest, its Derivation, 328. 396. F. G. On Sides and Angles, 265. F. W. On the Situation of Sirius, 494. F. G. On Arms of Robert Nelson, 263. F. G. E. On the Knapp Family, 424. F. H. On Goff's Translation of the History of the Bible, 165. Fiat Justitia on Mishing Malicho, 231. Fib, its Derivation, 167. Filthy Jingram, 42. Furcone, its Symbolism, 290. Fire of London, the Surveyor's Account, 350. Fire Nye on National Debts, 466. Fitzgerald, Lord Edward, his mother, 492. Fitzpatrick, Richard, Notice of, 276. 334. 432. F. J. F. On Red Book of Irish Exchequer, 6. On the Accession of Richard III, 457. On Shakespeare Family, 493. Flamberg's Sword, 168. 292. Fleckemore, Christopher, who was he? 23. Fleet Marriages, 4. Flemish Account, its Early Use, 57. 138. 162. FM on English Sapphics, 494. On equestrian statues, 494. F.O. On Bishop Thornborough's monument, 299. Folklore 20. 84. 132. 179. 205. 220. 258. 320. 367. Devonshire, 404. Dutch, 387. Lancashire, 55. 516. Northamptonshire, 3. Talk, 474. Welsh, 20. Forbes C. On Brown's Britannia's Pastorals, 274. On Epitaph and Hall's Discovery, 339. On the Birthplace of Robert Burton, 396. On George III. S. Coinage, 310. On Fine by Degrees and Beautifully Less, 154. On Tandem D. O. M. 173. Foreign English specimens of 57. 257. 346. Renderings at Salzburg, 138. Foreigner, A. On English synonyms, 166. Foss, Edward, on Clements Inn, 109. On the Ulm manuscript, 192. On two chancellors at one time, 257. On the Outer Temple, 325. 375. 451. 505. Foss, Henry on Hulls, the inventor of steamboats, 69. On Rudbeck's Atlantica, 196. Foucault's Pendulum Experiment, 371. For Wantway, 168. 434. 508. F. P. H. On the Bibliographical Queries of R. G. 24. On the Meaning of Conquest, 30. On Errors in the Date of Works, 22. On the Authorship of the Monthly Intelligencer, 37. On Inscription on an Oak Board, 240. Frampton, Bishop, Notices of Him Wanted, 61. 214. Francis C. F. On Epitaph and Hall's Discovery, 242. Francis, John, on Hewson and Smollett's Strap, 123. On St. Paul's Striking 1340. Francis, St. Liber Conformitatem, 321. Flemish work on the Order of, 502. Franciscus on the Meaning of Mosaic, 469. On Shakespeare's Designation of Cleopatra, 465. Francis X. John, on Roman roads near London, 328. On Westchester, 353. Frere Goe, on Snail, Snail, Come Out of Your Hole, 179. Freddenham Church Legend in, 407. 506. Friday Weather, 7. 153. Why Considered Unlucky, 496. Friswell, James, on Epigrams on Cromwell, 516. Frog's Wedding, a Ballad, 51. Fronte Capellata, and C. Its authorship 8. 43. 92. 124. 140. 286. Frozenhorn, 25. 71. 91. 182. 282. 459. F. R. W. On Barrow's English Ballads, 228. On Christmas Day, 249. Funerals, Handbells at, 310. 466. F. W. On Gilbert's MS. On Clandestine Marriages, 167. F. W. R. On Fossil Deer of Ireland, 26. G. G. On Barker, the Panorama Painter, 483. On Bishop's Lands, 87. On Princesses of Wales, 477. On Court Dress, 457. G. A. On the Origin of a Surname, 323. On Barker, the Panorama Painter, 406. On Lord Edward Fitzgerald's Mother, 492. Gallatly, J. On misquotation of Gen 3. 19. 275. Gam, Danid, on Chepstow Castle, 241. On Charles II. Being in Wales, 263. Ganganelli, Pope, the compilers of his life, 12. Gantolin P. J. F. On A.B.P. Williams's portrait, 75. Etymology of Kobold, 85. Gaddy, Alfred, on the early culture of the imagination, 38. On church bells, 238. On the division of the Ten Commandments, 166. On monumental inscription, 223. On Herbert's Memoirs of Charles I, 223. On strange appearance in the sky, 298. On epitaph of Countess of Pembroke, 307. On St. Thomas of Lancaster, 339. On Warren Hastings' magnanimity, 369. On Expedi Herculum, 380. On Registry of Dissenters, 460. On Ancient Modes of Hanging Bells, 493. On Lord Nelson's Dress and Sword at Trafalgar, 517. On Earth Thrown upon the Coffin, 499. On the Lay of the Last Minstrel, 505. On Written Sermons, 526. Gaudencio di Luca, its authorship, 36. 117. Gay Rev. Mr. Notices of, 424. 508. G. B. On Collard the Logician, 186. G. C. On Alliteration, 340. G. C. W. On the Word Blunder, 106. On Land Holland, 30. On Lights on the Altar, 30. On the Etymology of Sum, Furling, and Grasson, 7. Genealogicus Lancastriensis on Family of Catherine Parr, 302. Geneva Bible, 13. 17. 72. 93. 115. 165. Gentlemen, can the Queen make one? 88. George St. the Martyr, Southwark, Indulgences granted to benefactors, 414. Gerbiers Sir B. Academy, 317. His Autobiography, 304. German Universities, Religious Teaching in, 303. Geronimo, Description of Mosaic, 521. G. F. On the phrase. At sixes and sevens, 425. On the letter, 44. On True Blue, 27. On the Meaning of Mocker, 73. On Crossing Rivers on Skins, 86. On Rab Surdam, 42. On Richard III, 221. On Honeymoon, 276. Gig Hill, Its Meaning, 222. 283. Gilbert on Colonel Husina Cobbler, 73. Gilbert's MS. On Clandestine Marriages, 167. 463. Gillingham Council, 448. 505. G. J. On Daresbury, the Whitechapel of England, 60. G. J. M. On the Frozen Horn, 25. On Gough's translation of the History of the Bible, 100. On George Wither the Poet, 36. On the phrase, I preached as never sure to preach again, 36. Glenifer on Bab and the Bowster, 45. Gloucester Alarm, what? 278. Gloucestershire Provincialisms, 204. Gloves, the Presentation of, 220. 424. Glynn, Lord Chief Justice, his Portrait, 8. God Speed the Plough. The Motto, 8. God's Acre, a Burial Ground, 284. 380. Goddard's History of Lynn, Mrs. Wanted, 140. Gomer on Chapel or Printing Office, 7. On the Meaning of Eisel, 508. On the Etymology of Now, a Ship, 509. On Tristan d'Acunha, 29. Good B. On the Etymology of By the By, 109. 229. Goodwin, C. W. On Mrs. of Sir T. Phillips, 507. Gooseberry Fool, its derivation, 496. Gordon G. E. R. On the Word of Er 292. Gordon G. J. R. On Medal of Charles 12, 26. On Rudbeck's Atlantica, 26. Gough's Translation of the History of the Bible, 100. 165, G.P. J.F. On In Time the Savage Bull, N.C. 502. G.Q. On Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 225. On Barons of Hugh Lupus, 266. G.R. On Bibliographical Queries, 86. 138, 182. Graham, James, Notice, 453. Grusson, Its Etymology, 8. 75, 76. Grave, Poem upon the, 372. 460. Gravener, Sir Thomas, Epitaph on, 57. 122. Graves, J. On a Cardinal's Hat, 169. On the Ormond Portraits, 119. Gray's Alcaic Ode, 4. Elegy, Its Plagiarisms, 35. 206. 445. Lucretian Origin of a Verse in, 138. G. R. E. On Meaning of Venuel, 38. Green, Robert, A Dutch Translation of a Tract by, 103. Quip for an Upstart Courtier, 103. Groatsworth of Wit, 140. 479, Pandasto, 1. Gregory the Great, 62. Griffith, B.P. His Portrait, 8. Groves of Blarney, Its Authorship, 495. G.S. On the Cataracts of the Nile, 89. On Dancing Trench Moor, 89. On Flemish Account, 57. On Paternoster Tackling, 89. On Thomas Rogers of Horninger, 62. On Theological Tracts, 61. Galter, Rodolph, 8. 43. 123. Guardian, Dutch version of, 22. Guinegate on Supporters borne by Commoners, 224. Gulls, as applied to hasty pudding, 143. Gun, Inscription of an Old, 221. Dutch, J. M. On Gough's Translation of the History of the Bible, 165. G. W. S. On the Life of Pope Ganganelli, 12. Gwyn, Cuden, On Derivation of a Ver, 291. On the Meaning of Eisel, 524. On Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 11. Jiff's Law, On Arms of Sir John Davies, 409. H. H. On the Ballad Darby and Joan, 38. On the Picture of Our Saviour, 228. H. A. W. On Simon Back, 105. On the Tradescants, 286. Haggard W. D. On the Vellumbound Junius, 262. 307. Haleshire E. On Quebeca and his Epitaph, 223. Hall's Discovery, Epitaph in, 242. 338, 339. 504. Hall, Hughes Fraser, On Mitre and Cloven Tongues, 284. Hallowell, J. O. On Green's Groatsworth of Wit, 140. Hallam, Cardinal, His Progenitors, 170. Hamilton, C. On the Author of Scogeneral, 303. Hamilton, Newburgh, 117. 356. Hammond, C. D. On Lacrimatories, 151. Hampson's Religious Deceptions of the Church of Rome, An Error Corrected, 87. Hampstead, Judges Walk at 4. Hand Giving the Blessing, 477. 509. Handbell Before a Corpse, 68. 154. Handel's Occasional Oratorio, 426. 480. Hares 3. Harlequins, Origin of, 165. 287. 464. Harrington E. C. On Cook's Dialogue, 306. On Patrick's Tract on the Eucharist, 214. Harris the Painter, Notices Wanted, 329. Research, meaning of, 252. Harrison's Chronology, 105. 192. Hastings, Lady Flora, Bequest, 443. 522. Hastings, Warren, His Magnanimity, 369. Hawkins, Edward, on the Writers in the Anti-Jacobin, 348. Hay Bands and Seals, 186. 248, 291. 331, 332. H. B. on Snail Eating, 336. H. C. on Bactria, 435. On the Meaning of Eisel, 508. On Petworth Register Book, 449. On the Word Sewell, 482. On St. Uncumber, 404. H. C. E. on Epitaph in Morwenstow Churchyard, 377. H. C. H. on the Symbolism of Death, 501. H. C. R. on Epigram on the Duchess of Eboli, 208. H. D. on the Descendants of Colonel Fell, 142. H. E. on Cum Grano Salis, 88. On Baron Munchausen's Frozen Horn, 182. On an Old Ballad, 278. Heads Noogie Venals, 453. Headings of Chapters in Bibles, 141. 269. Healing, Prayers at the 42. 93. 148. 197. 352. 436. Heart, to Learn by, 425. 483. Heathhounds, 404. Hedgehog 3. Hell, Father, Account of Him Wanted, 167. 269. Henchman B.P. His Portrait 8. 43. Henko on Court Dress, 407. Henry IV. Descent of, 120. 171. Henry VIII. And Sir Thomas Kerwin, 323. Henryson, Robert, a complete edition of his poems A Desideratum, 38. Herbert, George, and the Restoration of Bemerton Church, 22. 85. 178. Herbert, Sir Thomas, His Memoirs, 157. 223. 259. Hermes on an Inscribed Alms Dish, 101. On the Phrase, God's Acre, 380. On Snail Eating, 221. Hermit at Hampstead on W.M. Hone, 508. Hermit of Holyport on Dowser's Poem on Sydney, 22. On Old Dutch Songbook, 23. On the Father of Philip Massenger, 52. On a Dutch translation of a tract by Robert Greene, 103. Account of an ancient wood engraving, 277. Herodotus, time when he wrote, 30. 76. 124. Herensos, its derivation, 450. 507. Herstmans's Castle, Daker Monument at, 75. Notices respecting, 28, 29. 124. Hertfordiensis on Paper Mill near Stevenage, 187. Hewson, Colonel, the Cobbler, 11. 73. 123. Hewitt, J. W. On an inscription on a clock, 329. 430. Heylon's Microcosmos, error in the date, 22. Heywood Family, 263. H. F. On the authorship of the Cavalier's Farewell, 34. H. F. J. On Snail Charm, 179. H. H. On Expedi Herculum, 302. On What the Hare, 44. Hybald St. Who was he? 496. Hibernicus on Dutch Literature in Dublin University Library, 379. On the Milesians, 428. Hickson S. On the authorship of Henry VIII, 33. On the meaning of Eisel, 119. On the word rack, in Shakespeare's Tempest, 218. On Shakespeare and Fletcher, 318. On Shakespeare's Meaning of Prenzy, 454. Hill's Penny Post, 62. Hipparchus on Sabbatical Jewish Years, 373. Hippopotamus, 181. 308. H. J. On an Enigmatical Epitaph, 184. On the Life of Mrs. Elizabeth Walker, 21. H. J. C. On Fivizano the Painter, 495. H. J. O. On the Life of Clancy, 42. H. J. W. On the Word Adur, 30. On Contracted Names of Places, 182. H. L. On Family of Sir J. Banks, 507. H. M. A. On the Word of Bales, 243. On Rab Surdam, 193. H. N. On Bunyan and the Visions of Hell, 467. Hogan, What Kind of Beverage, 450. Holland, Hugh, and His Works, 427. Holland, Land 30. 70. 229. Hollander's Austerity, and C. Explanation Wanted, 494. Holy Water for the Whooping Cough, 220. Holywood the Mathematician, His Birthplace, 389. Homilies, the First Edition of Second Book, 102. Hone, William, His Conversion, 477. 508. Honor of Clare, Documents Relating to, 390. Hoods of the Scotch Universities, 329. Hook or by Crook. Explained, 116. 212. Hooper, B.P., His Godly Confession, and c. 169. 227. Hooper, Richard, Inquiries Respecting William Shilcutt, 38. On Howell's Desiderius, 352. Whooping Cough, Cure of, 258. Hoops, Their Early Use in Dress, 85. 153. Hornbooks, 151. Hornack, Dr. Anthony, Inquiry Respecting His Letters, 117. Horrocks, James, whose father lived in the time of Cromwell, 475. Hodgkin, Robert, on Lines by Pope, 221. Haumont, Motto, 106. Howard, John, Medal given to, 142. Howard, Lord, was he a Papist? 185. 244. 287. 309. How, Captain, how related to George II? 353. 438. Howell's Desiderius, or Original Pilgrim, 352. H. R. On the Legend of St. Moles, 478. On the Word Bound, 483. On the Fossil Elk of Ireland, 502. On Stone Chalices, 481. H. R. C. On a Stone in Casterton Church, 181. On the Rarity of William IV. S. Copper Coinage, 136. H. R. C. H. On the Family of Sir J. Banks, 390. H. R. D. On Anticipations of Modern Ideas, 137. On Bogatsky's Golden Treasury, 526. On Gregory the Great, 194. On the phrase, Mind your P's and Q's, 328. 523. On Pilgarlic, 150. On the Agency of Odie, 517. H. S. On Meaning of Waste Book, 465. H. S. H. On Britch's Bible, 72. On Cromwell's Dealings with the Devil, 282. H. T. On Obeism, 59. Hughes, William, on Iovani Volpe, 244. Hulls, The Inventor of Steamboats, 69. Hurd, B.P. Biography Wanted, 496. Huygens, Constantine, English Poems by, 423. H. W. B. On Christ's Cross Row, 465. On the Frozen Horn, 282. On Maud de Piat, 372. On Lines in Tennyson's In Memoriam, 142. On the Meaning of Trepidation Talked, 450. Heil's Arte of Vulgar Arithmetic, 409. B. R. On Epigram on Synod of Dort, 94. On Playfrey, 88. C. H. On Mince at Norwich, 525. Ich Dein Motto, 106. 168. F. On Ancient Wood Engraving, 426. Ignatius Epistles, edited by Mr. Curitin, 138. Ignibus on Suppressed Chantries, 24. Ignore, its etymology, 169. Image of both churches, its author, 407. 469. Imagination, on its early culture, 38. 73. 152. Unedited Poetry, from Harlean Mrs., 203. 218. Inquisition, Histoire de its authorship, 11. Inscription on an oak board, 240. Ireland, Notes on, 490. Irish Brigade, account of, 372. J. On Kristen, Somerset. 357. On the correct prefix of mayors, 92. James II. His natural daughter, 224. 249, 280. 506. Jarlsberg on altar lights, and c. 68. Barlam and Josaphat, 278. On Queen Mary's Lament, and c. 89. On Odor from the Rainbow, 224. On the Vendus, 301. Jarcher, account of this work wanted, 89. Jasper on Collar of SS, 42. JD on Record for Existing Monuments, 418. On Villanage, 411. J. B. On Egg and Arrow Ornament, 349. Yearney on a Carved Ceiling, 424. Gerald Douglas, on the Sayer of After Me the Deluge, 299. Jesse's London, Notes on, 84. Jesuits, History of the Author? 328. Jews in China, Discovery of, 442. J. F. On Ruggles Ignoramus, 518. J. G. A. On Scotch University's Hoods, 329. J. H. On the Curfew Bell, 77. On Ptolemy's Presents to the 72, 449. On Sir Walter Raleigh, 105. On Sir Cloudesley's Shovel, 23. Jingo on Self-Striking Clocks, 372. J. L. On the Curse of Scotland, 483. On Snail Eating, 221. On Record of Existing Monuments, 217. J. M. On Maclean Not Junius, 411. John A. P. William on Welsh History, 447. John King, at Lincoln, 141. 290. John's St. Bridge Fair, 88. 287. 341. 469. Vox Populi Vox Dei, 288. Joan, Pope, Whether a Myth or a Veritable Lady, 265. 306. 395. 463. The Game of, 22. Jonah and the Whale, 517. Jonathan, the Cognomen of Brother, 495. Jones, T. On the Ten Commandments, 412. Johnson, Ben, His Portrait, 106. Joseph of Exeter, Where is the MS? Of his De Bello Antiochino, 447. Josephus on St. John's Bridge Fair, 88. Jove, J. Cove, on Spelling of Britannicus, 463. J. T. On the Circulation of the Blood, 340. On Early Culture of the Imagination, 73. On the Authorship of Histoire de l'Inquisition, 11. On Jurari ad Capitanum Aelium, 192. On the Execution of Mary Queen of Scots, 198. On Treatise by A.B.P. Engelbert, 291. On Obiism, 309. On Swearing by Swans, 71. 308. On Antiquitas Seculi Juventus Mundi, 156. On cognation of the Jews and Lacedaemonians, 172. On modum permissionis, 92. On occult transposition of letters, 69. On Welsh words for water, 152. On the verse, words are men's daughters, NC, 38. Judas Cup, account of 85. Junius, the vellum-bound copy, 262. 307. 378. 411. Jurat? Creed minus. An epigram, 143. 193. J. W. On cardinals and abbots in the English Church, 304. K. K. On the meaning of Gig Hill, 222. On the capitulations of the Irish Brigades, 372. On Moore's Almanac, 381. On Voltaire, where situated, 433. On the meaning of Venville, 310. K. D. On Aristotle and Pythagoras, 352. Keepsakes, the Potters and Shepherds, 181. K. E. H. On the etymology of aver, 42. Kelka, W. Hastings, on north sides of churchyards, 332. On discrepancies in Dugdale's account of the Cobham family, 53. On Landwade Church, 102. Kemble pipe of tobacco, 425. 502. Kentish town in the last century, 4. Kenyon, C. Howard, on a sonnet. On the library at Cambridge, 37. Kepper, G. L. On a specimen of English French, 437. Cariensis on Lord Howard, 287. On Mazer Wood, 288. On traditions from remote periods, 289. On sacramental wine, 368. On the Milesians, 428. Kershaw, J. H. On a specimen of composition, 493. Kersley, T. H. On the time when Herodotus wrote, 30. On the derivation of Yankee, 461. Kerslake, Thomas, on Locke's Misses, 337. K. H. C. On Daker Monument, 75. On Demosthenes and New Testament, 437. On the meaning of Ain, 351. On an incised slab, 373. K. E. J. On Jonah and the Whale, 517. On quotation. Men may live fools. And c. 518. K. H. C. On outline and painting, 63. On the meaning of Sewell, 391. On the meaning of To Autumn, 265. K. F. On biography of Bishopard, 496. On David Rizzio's signature, 390. Kg. P. S. On Tingry, 464. K.I. On Son, stand thou still upon Gideon. 137. King, Richard John, on a Danish itinerary, 238. On metropolitan improvements, 368. King Thas. W.M. On hats of cardinals, 182. On record of existing monuments, 513. King's Doctor poem. The Tos. A key to the characters, 13. King's Evil, touching 4, 290. Form of prayer 4, 42. 93. 148. 197. 352. 436. K. J. On the two Doctors Abercrombie, 209. K. J. B. On water buckets given to sheriffs, 118. K. L. H. On Lady Flora Hastings' bequest, 522. Knapp family in Norfolk and Suffolk, 424. Nebsend, or Nebsend, 263. 434. Knights C. On a passage in Hamlet 10. Knights Hospitallers, 243. In combat on church chests, 187. Of Malta, their badge, 278. Two sorts of, 425. Cobalt, its etymology 85. Cuz, alleged, on the word winkle, 138. On foreign renderings, 138. Ks, on the meaning of conquestum, 92. Kth, on God takes those soonest, and c. 302. On the authorship of La Rose Nate, and c. 186. Kw, h, on cross between wolf and hound, 93. Kw, m, on law courts at St. Albans, 466. On the San Grail, 224. Canaston's Museum Minervi, 317. L. On Antiquitas Seculi Juventus Mundi, 125. On Après moi le deluge, 397. On the Curse of Scotland, 423. On Closing Rooms After Death, 142. On Culprits Torn by Horses, 91. On Cross Between a Wolf and a Hound, 93. On Decking Churches at Christmas, 118. On Epigram on the Synod of Dort, 23. On Fronte Capellata, and c. 43. On the authorship of Gaudencio di Luca, 36. On Portrait of B.P. Henchman, 8. On a passage in B.P. Butler, 44. On the Hippopotamus, 308. On God Takes Those Soonest, and c. 377. On Ex Pede Herculum, 380. On Histoire de Severams, 4. 148, 374. On the Nine of Diamonds, 22. On Van Dyck's Portrait of Lord Aubigny, 88. On the Etymology of Depose, 91. On Wanton Steli Viaggi, 277. L.A. On Shakespeare a Thorough Sailor, 300. On Meaning of Luncheon, 369. Lacrimatories, Their Use, 151. Lady Fights at Atherton, 143. Ladies' Trees, 206. Lamb, Charles, His Epitaph, 322. 379. 459. Lammerbeads 84. 100. 115. 229. Lamb W. H. On Sir John Davies, 336. Lancashire Folklore, 55. 516. Lancastriensis on Bigod de Loges, 434. On Westchester, 459. Landway Church, 39. 102. Langholm Fair, Proclamation of, 56. 156. Langley's Polydor Virgil, 137. Language Given to Men, The Saying, 229. Laudator Temporis Acti on Writing Paper, 181. Lauds ABP, Answer to Fisher, 224. Lawrence T. On Names of the Ferret, 390. Lawson, Charles, Notices of, 331. L. B. L. On Holland Land, 70. L. E. On the Meaning of Sephen, 152. L. E. A. H. On the Meaning of Sewell, 505. On Lambert Simnel, 506. Legalis on Lord Mayor a Privy Councillor, 496. Leges on the word Prenzy and Measure for Measure, 401. Leicester's Commonwealth, 29. 374. Lesestrensis on Cashco Bell, 407. On Churchwarden's Accounts of St. Mary de Castro, 352. On Dieu et mon droit, 407. Lennep J. H. Van, on Dutch Popular Songbook, 189. Lennox, The Daughters of the Sixth Earl of, 243. Lent Lilies, or Daffodils, 259. Laresh on Darcy Lever Church, 27. Lewis, George, on Passage in Coleridge, 518. L. H. R. On the authorship of a History of the Jesuits, 328. On Sempecta at Croyland, 328. Library at Cambridge. Sonnet on the 37. Library of George III. Whether sold or presented to the nation, 427. Lie on giving the 369. Lights on the altar 30. 172. Limerick Cathedral, inscription on a tablet, 477. Lincoln Missal, NEMS, of 119. 193. Lions symbolical of the resurrection, 462. Litus, its application in the sense of Ripa, 446. Liturgicus on headings of chapters in Bibles, 141. L. J. on Abbot Eustathius and Engidus, 141. L. J. H. on Simon Bach, 155. On Painting by C. Bega, 28. On Coggeshall Job, 285. On Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 285. On Harry Perry, When Will You Marry? 289. On Thomas May, 167. L. L. B. on Haybands and Seals, 248. 332. A Note for Topographers of London, 206. On an Original Warrant, 220. On Witchcraft in the 17th Century, 444. Llewellyn on Camden and Curwen Families, 125. 253. On Separation of Sexes in Churches, 288. On Rev. Mr. Gay, 508. On Pedworth Registers, 510. L. M. C. On Preaching from Written Sermons, 478. Locke, John, Letter Respecting Him, 97. Manuscripts, 337. Loftus, A.B.P., Memoranda Wanted, 263. Longevity, Remarkable, 237. Long Meg of Westminster, 22. Longueville Mrs., Where Are They? 449. Loretto, The Chapel of, 205. Lower Mark Antony, on the Arches of Pelaga, 478. On the Frozen Horn, 71. On Haybands and Seals, 186. On Registry of Dissenters, 460. On Traditions from Remote Periods through Few Links, 237. On the Meaning of Tie, 340. On the Sword of William the Conqueror, 66. Lewid on the Sempecta, 433. Lucas Family, 352. Lucretia, the Earl of Clarendon's daughter, 88. Lucy and Colin, 7. 76. Luncheon, its meaning, 369. 464. Lookies, W. C. On engraved warming pans, 522. Lunardi's balloon, 153. Lupus Hugh, the Barons of, 87. 189. 266. 503. Lute string, to speak in, its meaning, 188. Luther and Ignatius Loyola, 137. L. N. E. On the History of Andrea Ferrara, 62. L. W. On a Specimen of Foreign English, 57. On the Lucas Family, 352. Lynch Law, its Origin, 24. 76. Lion Verse, 466. 507. Littleton, Lancelot, Particulars Wanted, 330. M. On Mrs. Catherine Barton, 434. On Clarkson's Richmond, 507. On Lay of the Last Minstrel, 464. On Merrick and Tattersall, 60. On Obeism, 149. On Irregular Mull, 508. On Sabbatical and Jubilee Years of the Jews, 464. On Southey's March to Moscow, 243. On the Author of A Modest Inquirer, 264. On Trepidation Talked, 486. On St. Vitus and St. Patrick's Festival, 241. Mew. On Barrow's English Ballads, 228. On MS. Of Bede, 247. On Epitaph on Sir Thomas Gravener, 122. On Portrait of Archbishop Williams, 152. On Letters on the British Museum, 208. On the Ulm manuscript, 269. M4. J. On Devonshire folklore, 404. On Earth thrown upon the coffin, 408. On Dr. Young's Narcissa, 422. On the meaning of peep, 310. M. or N. Their use in the church service, 323. 447. M. A. On the expression at sixes and sevens, 425. On the song talk not of love, 7. M. A. C. On the derivation of Minis, 388. On the singing of swans, 75. Matchell R. B. On the lingering of the spirit, 84. Matchell's M.S. Collections for Westmoreland and Cumberland, 118. 227. Mackenzie, Kenneth R. H. Translations of Apuleius, and C. 76. On Burke's Mighty Boar of the Forest, 493. On Time when Herodotus wrote, 124. On an unedited ballad on truth, 134. On an oration against Demosthenes, 141. On hornbooks, 151. On early culture of the imagination, 152. A word to the literary men of England, 161. On Trinital Hall's exequies, 203. On a poem, A Virtuous Woman, from the Harleian Misses, 219. On an epitaph on Mr. Brown, 320. On Sallustius' Epistles to Caesar, 62. 140. On Sallustius and Tacitus, 325. Mackintosh, Sir James, His Notes and Books, 489. On the authors of the Ralliad, 131. Macklin's Ordinary and School of Criticism, 163. Maclean Not Junius, 378. 411. Madden, Sir Frederick, on Beatrix Lady Talbot, 10. On Charles I. and Nave's collection of pictures, 236. On the poems of John Sigard, 261. Madden's Reflections and Resolutions, 323. Magnum Sedile, Their Use, 142. Magpies 3. Mail, The House of, 351. Maitland's Dr. S. R. Illustrations of Mesmerism, 220. 243. On the Sempecta of Croyland, 357. M. A. J. On Voltaire's Henriade, 388. Malentour, A Motto on a Crest, 449. 485. Malta, Records at 180. Man, Arms of the Isle of, 373. 520. Manley, John, On a Curious Fact in Natural History, 166. Manuscripts, Ancient, Proposed Association for Recovering, 161. 261, 340. Marforio on Collections of Pasquinades 8. Marinus, Faber, on Tandem D. O. M. 62. Mark 13. 32. Annotators on 8. 110. Markham, Charles D. On the Vavasors of Hazelwood, 71. Markham, C. W. On Eschhold Priory, 86. Markland, J. H. On the Riders in the Ralliad, 333. Marx, St. Foundation Stone of Venice, 88. 147. Marriage, Curious Almanat, 406. Mariconda on St. Francis, 321. Marsh's Female Captive, 423. Martin Family, 29. Marshall, Hereditary Earl, 209. Marsham, Sir John, was he knight or baronet? 407. Martinus on the published Dutch books, 326. Marwood, John of Oniton, 450. Mary, Queen of Scots, Defense of her Execution, 113. 198. Her Crucifix, 517. Lament, 89. 172. Prayer of, 369. 504. Mary de Castro, St. Churchwarden's Accounts of, 352. Mason not Junius, 402. 432. Massenger, Philip, his father, 52. Matthews, W.M. Franks, On the Fire of London, 350. Matthew's Mediterranean Passage, 240. 284. Matrimony, Solemnization of, 307. Matrix of Monastic Seal, 263. M. A. W. On Cardinal Hallam, 170. Mar Rev. Dr. Epitaph on, 184. 248. 291. May Thomas, Notices of, 167. 279. 280. May Katz, 20. 84. Mayor of London, is he a Privy Councillor? 496. Mayors, their correct prefix, 92. Mazer Wood and Gutta Percha, 239. 288. 467. M. Colmont, Thomas, Notice of H. Smith, 222. M. C. O. S. On Richard Whiting's Watch, 352. M. C. R. On Tomb of Chaucer, 188. On Burying in Church Walls, 156. On the Clench Family, 188. On Lady Bingham, 229. On Knights in Combat on Church Chests, 187. On Magnum Sedile, 142. Medal, a satirical one, 240. M. E. J. On the Tomb of Rev. W. Adams, 249. On Today We Purpose, 397. On the Tanthony Bell, 429. Me. J. Queries and Notes on Books, Men, and Authors, 117. Mercer W. J. On Nali Me Tanher, 46. On the Derivation of Cad, 46. Mercurii on Matthew's Mediterranean Passage, 240. On Edmund Prideaux and the Post Office, 266. On Pursuits of Literature, 378. Merrick, the Versifier of the Psalms, 60. Merriweather F. S. On Aged Monks, 60. Merviniensis on Arms of Isle of Man, 373. Metrical Psalms and Hymns, Origin of their Use, 119. 198. Metropolitan Improvements suggested by Bishop King, 368. Mezzotinto on the Authorship of the Butcher Duke, 8. M. F. On Paul Pitcher Knight, 239. M. F. C. On the Motto Malentour, 485. M. F. E. On the Motto Malentour, 449. On the Origin of National Debts, 374. M. G. R. On the Name Vineyard, 470. Meeshing Moleko in Hamlet, 3. 213. Midwives Licensed, 29. 44. Mildew in Books, 29. Milesians, Their Origin, 353. 428. Milkmaids in 1753, 367. Miller, Dr., author of Philosophy of History, commended, 137. Milton and the Calves Head Club, 390. 484. Expressions in 241. Nativity Ode, 36. Supposed Pun by, 37. 141. Sonnet, Query by, 142. Millward, Sir Thomas, his Portrait, 8. Miners Burning Out a Delinquent, 123. Minium, or Red Lead Pencil of Archbishop Parker, 492. Minis, its derivation, 388. Mints local, 447. 525. Misodolos on indulgences granted to benefactors for building St. George the Martyrs, 444. Mistletoe on oaks, 192. 226. 396. 462. Mitre, the Episcopal, its origin, 62. 144. 145. 284. M. J. On an Ancient MS. Of Bede's Eccles. Hist. 180. On Natural Son of Cardinal Wolsey, 303. On an answer to Fisher's relation, 224. On orations against Demosthenes, 228. On derivation of Yankee, 260. On lost manuscripts, 340. On the first edition of the second book of Homilies, 102. On a prayer of the Bishop of Nantes, 140. On Munchausen's Travels, and c. 453. M. J. E. On a passage in Virgil, 357. M. J. F. On Milton and Calves Head Club, 484. On Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis, 260. On Solemnization of Matrimony, 307. On Voltaire's Henriade, 485. M. J. H. On Apple Pie Order, 468. On Denarius Philosophorum, 251. On the Nine of Diamonds, 253. On Pope Joan, 395. On Form of Prayer at the Healing, 126. On the Epitaph of the Countess of Pembroke, 262. 456. On George Stevens and W. M. Stevens, 286. On Pepys's Song, Beauty Retire, 105. Did St. Paul's clock strike 13? 109. On the Song Winifreda, 108. M. J. L. On the Nineveh Monuments and Milton's Nativity Ode illustrated from Lucian, 35. M. J. O. On the 39 Articles, 287. On the Table of Prohibited Degrees, 329. M. N. On Epigram against Burke, 284. Mockbeggar, origin of the term, 44. Mocker, its meaning, 73. Modest Inquirer and c. its author, 264. Modum Promissionis, 92. Moles, St. Legend of, inquired after, 478. Mole, the story of the 74. Monarchia Solipsorum, its authorship, 138. 197. Monkbarns on Proclamation of Langholm Fair, 56. Monks, aged, of the 10th century, 60. 139. Monkstown on Joseph Nicholson's family, 397. Monosyllables, their use, 57. 165, 340. Monroe Cecil on the Bald Rock, 503. Montchesney family, 518. Mondepiet, 372. 524. Monumental Symbolism, 449. Monuments, Record of Existing, 14. 116. 217. 313. 418. 513. Moore's Almanac, 263. 339. 381. 466. Moorfields and Charles II. S. Time, 260. Morse and Ireton families, 250. Mosaic, its meaning, 389. 469. 521. Moths called souls, 220. Mottos on warming pans and garters, 84. 115. 290. 522. Mounds or months, its meaning, 187. 413. M. P. M. On the Head of the Savior, 168. On Lions of the Temple, 505. M. R. On a Musical Plagiarism, 105. M. R. R. On Handbells at Funerals, 466. On Lord Howard of Effingham, 309. On Pope Joan, 395. On the Life of St. Pancras, 523. On National Debts, 524. On Monte di Pieta, 524. M. S. On the Pedigree of Owen Glendower, 222. M. S. R. On the Derivation of Luncheon, 464. On Quakers' Attempt to Convert the Pope, 335. M. T. On Mythology of the Stars, 508. Mull, a regular, origin of the phrase, 449. 508. Munchausen's Travels, 117. 305. 453. Murray's Handbook for Devon and Cornwall, omissions noticed for mushroom, its etymology, 166. Musical Plagiarism, 105. M. W. G. On Prayer of Mary Queen of Scots, 504. On the Word Prenzy, 522. M. W. R. On Fronte Capillata, 286. On the Origin of the Milesians, 353. On Jeremy Taylor's Holy Living, 43. M. W. T. On Arthur's Seat, 251. On the couplet, Earth has no rage, 23. On Proclamation of Langholm Fair, 156. Mu. N. N. On Burying in Church Walls, 37. On Dragons, 40. On Memoir of George Steevens, 286. N.A. On Après moi le déluge, 397. On Coinage in Germany, 118. On Pope Joan, 463. On Now, a Ship, 477. On the San Grail, 482. On Stanage Pole, 390. Nails, pairing them on Sunday, 55. 462. Nantes, Bishop of, a Prayer by him, 140. Now, a Ship, Authority Wanted, 477. 509. Napoleon, Tablet 274. National Debts, Their Origin, 374. 466. 524. Natural History, Curious Fact in, 166. 398. 436. Naves, Bartolomeo Della, Collection of Pictures, 236. Navisher, de 81. 106. 114. N. D. On the Visit of Elizabeth to Bacon, 44. Neck Cure for a Large, 405. Nedlam on Mind Your P and Q's, 463. Nesib, Samet, on the Name of Bacon, 41. N. E. L. On Mr. P. Collier's Note on the Winter's Tale, 101. On the Origin of Harlequins, 165. On True Blue, 116. Nelson, Robert, His Armorial Bearings, 263. Nemo on Carolus Lawson, 331. On the Author of Broad Stone of Honor, 264. On Pope Joan, 265. On Essay on the Irony of Sophocles, 389. Nelson's Lord, Dress and Sword at Trafalgar, 517. Nestorians, or Lost Tribes, 484. Nedelin Dock Out. Its Meaning, 133. 201, 205. 368. 463. Neville Family, 24. Nevin's Son, Rev. Charles, on B. P. Hooper's Godly Confession, 169. Newburn F. On Drake's Historia Anglo-Scotica, 519. News, The Origin of the Word, 300. New Testament, Passages in, illustrated from Demosthenes, 350. 437. Newspapers, Notes on, 164. 248. N. G. On a Quotation. Today We Purpose, 302. Nidber on Matthew's Mediterranean Passage, 284. On Epitaph on Rev. John Marr, 291. Nicholson, Andrew, on Wife of Bishop Nicholson, 243. Nicolai S. Vita, Civ Stultici Exemplar, 87. Nicholas History of the Royal Navy, 328. Nicholson, Bishop, His Family, 243. 397. His Opinion of B. P. Burnett, 136. Nuremberg, J. E. His Contemplations ascribed to B. P. Taylor, 43. Nevi Knickknack, again, 179. Nile, Cataracts of the 89. 9 of Diamonds, why called? The Curse of Scotland, 22. 253. 423. 483. Nineveh, the king of, burns himself, 408. 506. Monuments illustrated from Lucian, 35. N. J. D. On the Library of the Church of Westminster, 230. N. J. G. On Giovanni Volpe, 247. On Roman Catholic Peers, 253. On General Pardons, 279. On the term mock-beggar, 44. N. J. D. N. On the Black Rood of Scotland, 104. On Neavy Knick-Knack, 179. N. M. A Word to Literary Men, 261. Nobbs of Norwich, Notice of, 447. 525. Noble Names in Workhouses, 350. No Cab on Bacon and Fagin, 106. On Handbell Before a Corpse, 154. On Snail Eating, 336. On the Invention of Steam Power, 23. Nolly Me Tanhair, 46. 484. None Such Palace near Ewell, 236. Norfolk Folklore Rhymes, 206. Norman Nobility, 87. 189. 266. 503. MS. Catalogue of, 266. 306. North Britain, Who were the writers in, 409. 432. North Age Family, Where located. 425. Northmen on Derivation of Yankee, 437. Notabilis Expositio Super Canonum Miss, 87. Notes and Queries, Prefatory Notice to Volume 3, 1. In Holland, 81. Nothing, Translation of Charade upon, 369. Novice on Disinterment for Heresy, 378. On Luther and Ignatius Loyola, 137. Norse, W.M. E. C. On Scandinavia, 370. Nullis Fraus Tuta Latibris. Motto, 329. N. W. M. On Spelling of Britannia, 502. N. V. D. On the Order of St. Franciscus, 502. O. Oakweb, or Cockchafer, 259. Oates Titus, his autograph, 27. Obeism, 59. 149. 150. 309. 376. Observator, its authorship, 323. Observator revived, its authorship, 323. Occult transposition of letters, 69. O.D. How this agency is tested, 517. Offor, George, on Bunyan's portrait, and the visions, 89. O. J. P. On the marriage of Sir John Vaughan, 223. Olavis, St. Churches, Southwark, 373. Olbuck, Jonathan, June, on Lanway Church, 39. Oldenburg Horn, engraving of, 509. Oldham, Passage in, 372. Omega on Cherubim and Seraphim, 27. O. M. N. On Iovani Volpe, 188. 244. Onions, St. Thomas, why so called, 187. 252. Omega on Tandem D. O. M. 173. O's, the 15, 391. Organs, when first used in churches, 518. Ormond, the Marquis of, on Scandal against Queen Elizabeth, 225. Portraits, 119. Outlandish Knight, Ballad, 49. 208. Outline in Painting, 63. 154. Owen, B.P. His Portrait, 8. Owen, Dr. John, Unpublished Sermons, 435. Owen Glendower, His Pedigree, 222. 356. Oxford Friar's Voyage to the North Pole, 168. Omega. P. On the Meaning of Averia, 157. On Sir Thomas Bullen's Drinking Horn, 38. On Dragons, 157. On the Barons of Hugh Lupus, 87. On Montchesney Family, 518. On the meaning of Venwell, 310. On the sword of William the Conqueror, 24. On the Breeches or Geneva Bible, 13. On Canons and Articles, 491. On School of the Heart, 469. C. P. On God Takes Those Soonest, and c. 377. On Achilles and the Tortoise, 484. On the Wordschimpic, 448. On Epigrams by Coulanges and Prior, 446. On Symbolism of Death, 502. On Dies Irae, 468. On Expedi Herculem, 457. On Quakers' Attempt to Convert the Pope, 396. On the author of We Hope, and c. 448. On Hollander's Austerity, 494. On Charles Lamb's Epitaph, 459. On Anonymous Ravennas, 462. On the Lion, a Symbol of the Resurrection, 462. On John Marwood, 450. On a Notice of Cardinal Azzelin, 458. The Cart Before the Horse, 468. On Catacombs and Bone Houses, 483. On the Tanthony, 484. On Essay on the Irony of Sophocles, 484. On Early Rain called The Pride of the Morning, 484. On the Lost Tribes, 484. On Nali Mi Tanher, 484. On the Sicilian Vespers, 484. On the Antiquity of Smoking, 484. Pagnini's Bible, 24. 86. Payne, C. June. On Usher's Works, 496. Painter's Anachronisms, 369. 517. Pallavicino and the Conde de Olivares, 478. 523. Palmerston, Henry Viscount, lines attributed to, 28. Pancras, St. Smith's Collections on, 285. 397. Biographical Notice of, 523. Papa Alterius Orbis, Its Origin, 497. Papal Tiara, Its Origin, 144. Bulls, Forged, 149. Paper Mill near Stevenage, 187. Pardons, General, under the Great Seal, 279. Parish Register Tax, 94. Parr, Family of Queen Catherine, 302. Parsons, Daniel, on Book Plates, 495. Paulam, Charles on Binzi, God Help Me, 44. Pasquinades, Collections of 8. Paternoster Tackling, Its Meaning, 89. 152. Patrick's, Rev. John, Tract on the Eucharist, 169. 214. Paul St. His Life Wanted, 451. Paul Pitcher Knight, 239. Paul's St. Did Its Clock Ever Strike 13? 40. 109. 153. 198. 449. Paul Dr. James, 28. P. C. On Colonel Hewson the Cobbler, 11. P. C. H. On Felix Quem Facient, 431. On Derivation of Fib, 167. On Lord Howard of Effingham, 185. On the New Testament Illustrated from Demosthenes, 350. Peachell, Hugh, Notice of, 407. Peacock, EDW. June, on Wife of James Torrey, 329. On a Record of Existing Monuments, 116. On Lincoln Missal, 119. Peacock, Swearing by Thee, 70. 438. Pelaga, Arches of, where? 478. 522. Pelethronius on Meaning of Auriga, 253. Pembroke, Countess of, her Epitaph, 262. 307. 413. 456. Penn W.M. and his family, 264. 409. 454. Penny Post and Coleridge, 27. Origin of 6. 62. Pepys's Song. Beauty Retire, 105. Peter the Hermit, inscription on his tomb, 329. Peter Wilkins, on the authorship of 13. Peter's St. in Rome, supposed inscription on, 425. Peter's Hugh, notices of, 166. 214. Petworth Register Book, 449. 485. 510. Pews and Churches, 56. Peyton, family of, 186. P. G. On Matchell's MS, collections, 227. On Prideaux and the Post Office, 186. On Illustrations of Tennyson, 319. P. H. On Babington's Conspiracy, 458. Phi. Omega, on Turning the Tables, 276. Phillips, Sir Thomas, his manuscripts, 358. 507. On Record of Existing Monuments, 417. Phi Odolamdalamdamicron Gamomicron, on Bacon and Fagin, 483. Phoenix, its Literary Proprietors, 325. Phi Omega, on Illustrations of Chaucer, 306. Pictorial Antiquities, 423. Pigeons Eaten Before Death, 517. Pidal, its Meaning, 391. Pigs with Single Hoofs, 263. 357. 468. Pilcher, its Meaning, 476. 507. 525. Pilgrim's Road to Canterbury, 429. Pilgarlic, 42. 74. 150. Pinkerton, W. On Davy Jones's Locker, 509. On Mazer Wood, 239. On the Tradescants, 393. On Whale Caught at Greenwich, 286. POA, P. D. On the Etymology of Apricot, 75. P. J. On the Miscellaneous Tracts of Peter Sterry, 38. P. J. S. On Porcy Solidopedes, 263. Playfrey, its Meaning, 88. Planch, J. R. On Poem on the Grave, 460. On Red Sindon, 27. Plays and Churches, 494. Poetical Coincidences, 320. Poet's Corner, when attached to the transept of Westminster Abbey, 381. Pomeroy Arthur, his parentage, 303. Pontoppidan's Natural History of Norway, 326. 526. Pope, on the Election of One in a Water Closet, 142. 253. Pope's Dunciad, an Incongruity in, 387. Lines by 221. Porson's Imposition, 28. Porter and Dimian, his Birthplace, 303. Portraits of Distinguished Englishmen, 233. Portus Canum, where? 408. Pose, the Etymology of. To pose, 91. P. On Folklore in Lancashire, 516. On Places Called Purgatory, 241. 308. P. R. On the Doctrine of Probabilism, 61. P. R. C. On Saxon Coinage at Derby, 225. Predeceased used as a verb active, 143. 287. Price E. B. On Engraved Warming Pans, 115. On Private Memoir of Queen Elizabeth, 197. Prideaux, Edmund, and the First Post Office, 186. 266, 267. 308. Family, 398. Prior's Posthumous Works, 24. Proba Conscientia on the Family Name of Bacon, 41. Probabilism, the Doctrine of, 61. 68. Prohibited Degrees Table of, commanded to be fixed in churches, 329. Prole in Anglia, where? 238. Proverbs, ex pede Herculum, 302. 380. The cart before the horse, 468. Going the whole hog, 224. 250. Mind your P's and Q's, 328. 357. 463. 523. Spick and span new, 330. 480. Under the rose, 300. 480. Prime C. De la on Mind Your P's and Q's, 357. P.S. On Farquharson and Dr. Paul, 28. On Many a Word at Random Spoke, 409. Ptolemy's Presents to the 72, 449. Publican Signs, 424. Poltock, Robert, the supposed author of Peter Wilkins, 13. Purgatory, Places So Called, 241. Pursuits of Literature, its authorship, 240. 276. 378. Pursuant on Lord Bexley's Descent from Cromwell, 185. P. W. H. On God's Acre, 284. On the couplet, Levora come se 2, and c. 188. Phi. Omega. Phi odo amdo lambda omicron gamma omicron. Phi omega. Q. Q. On Schmidt's Antiquitates Neomagensis, 328. On a quotation from Tillotson, 241. Q. D. On the Meaning of Slums, 284. Q. F. S. On Cockade, 196. On Derivation of a Ver, 292. On Pilgarlic, 74. On True Blue, 92. Q. P. On Civil War Tract, 303. Q. Q. On a quotation from Cam. Emblem, 433. On Skeletons at Egyptian Banquets, 482. Q. U. On Bartolus Learned Man Defended, 224. On a quotation from the Christian Instructed, 240. Quaker's Attempt to Convert the Pope, 302. 335. 396. Quarles, was he pensioned? 11. Quebeca and his Epitaph, 223. 458. Quidamon Gillingham, 448. Quince's A Customary Present, 20. Quincuplex Psalterium, 86. Quotations. I preached as a dying man to dying men, 36. And Coxcombs vanquished Berkeley by a grin, 110. After me the deluge, 299. A fellow feeling makes one wondrous kind, 300. Earth has no rage, 45. A verse may find him, and c. 60. The lucky have whole days, 69. Clarum et venerabile nomen, 69. Plurima gemma latet cicateller sepulta, 76. Cum grano salis, 66. 153. 253. The Soul's Dark Cottages, 105. 154. Fine by degrees and beautifully less, 105. 154. Sun, stand thou still upon Gideon, 137. 191. Sees good in everything, and c. 168. La rose nate and unmoment, 186. Laus to anon to a frows, 290. 466. Levora come se 2, and c. 188. 226. Impatient to speak and not see, 213. Just notions will into good actions grow, 240. O wearisome condition of humanity, 241. Marriage is such a rabble rout, 263. Poor Alinda's growing old, 264. Deal, Dover, and Harwich, 264. The Feast of Reason, and c. 265. In the Sweat of Thy Brow, 275. There was a Maid of Westmoreland, 278. Too Wise to Err, 279. Quadrijuges Invectus Equus, 287. Harry Perry, when will you marry? 207. 289. Today we purpose, and c. 302. 396. God take those soonest whom he loves best. 302. 377. So geographers on Afric's downs. 372. 485. Nature's mother wit. 388. Felix quem facient. 373. 431. 482. Nulli fraus tuta latibris. 323. 433. The right divine of kings to govern wrong. 494. In time the bull is brought to bear the yoke. 388. 502. Men may live fools. And c. 518. Sum quic tribuere. 518. We hope, and hope, and hope. 448. William the Norman conquers England's state. 168. Words are men's daughters. 38. 110. 154. R. On Epitaph on Countess of Pembroke. 413. On Smith's Collections of Mrs. 285. R. A Reader on Expressions in Milton. 241. R. 2. C. J. On Aristophanes on the Modern Stage. 105. R. A. On a Pun by Milton. 141. R. A. June on the Picture of the Saviour. 228. R. A. B. On Epitaph of the Worthy Knight. 57. Rab Surdam. 42. 193. Rack, its meaning in Shakespeare. 218. Rag Sunday in Sussex. 425. Rainbow, odor from the. 224. 310. Rains F. R. On Record of Existing Monuments. 514. R. A. L. On Dr. Maitland's Illustrations of Mesmerism. 220. Raleigh, Sir Walter, An Incident Respecting. 105. Ramashed, meaning of the term. 347. 434. Ratcatcher on the word ferret. 461. Ratche, its meaning. 265. Rawson, J. On the Mother Church of the Saxons. 90. R. C. C. On the Tradescants. 469. R. C. I. On Kristen, Somerset. 357. On the Frozen Horn. 459. On Quadrijuges Invectus Equus. 287. On the White Rose. 505. RDSE. On the Browns of Cowdray. 194. Reader on Monumental Symbolism. 449. Recubus, its meaning. 302. Red Book of the Irish Exchequer. 6. Red Hand. 194. Red Sindon. 27. Redwing's Nest. 408. 486. Registration of Dissenters in Churches. 370. 460. 486. 524. R. E. J. On Touching for the Evil. 290. Relic, Story of A. 234. Relton F. B. On the Family of Lord of Relton. 208. On Captain Howe's relation to Go2. 353. On Natural Daughter of James II. 224. 506. On the Symbolism of the Fir-cone. 290. Relton, Lord of Particulars Wanted. 208. Resurrection, Traces of it B. C. 274. Revert on. Nettle in, dock out. 463. R. F. On the Etymology of Balsall. 373. R. F. R. On Sir Andrew Chadwick. 247. On the Family of Entwisles. 61. On Early Culture of the Imagination. 73. On Hiring Servants in Holderness. And c. 328. On Jurat? Creed minus. 143. R. G. On Gloucester Alarm. 278. On the Locality of Kristen. 278. R. G. T. On Anachronisms of Painters. 517. R. G. H. On William Tell Legend. 187. R. H. C. on the foundation stone of St. Mark's, Venice 88. Rich A. June, on the episcopal mitre and papal tiara, 144. Richardson, Joseph, notice of, 276. 334. Richard III, the day of his accession, 351. 457. Traditional notice of, 206. 221. 300. Rifles, the best, English or American? 517. Rimbaud E. F. On Sir George Buck's treatise on the stage, 187. On the Bellman and his songs, 451. On the Breeches, or Geneva Bible, 165. Sir John Davies and his biographers, 82. On Dancing Trenchmore, 437. On the Dutch Church in Norwich, 396. On Prior's posthumous works, 24. On Traditional English Ballads, 49. On the birthplace of Robert Burton, 106. On T. Gilbert on Clandestine Marriages, 463. On a Portrait of Ben Jonson, 106. On Old Hewson the Cobbler, 123. On Joan Sanderson, or the Cushion Dance, 125. On Matchell's MS. Collections, 118. On Macklin's Ordinary and School of Criticism, 163. On the Etymology of Mushroom, 166. Was Hugh Peters on the stage? 163. On St. Thomas of Trunnions, 187. On Talk Not of Love, a Song, 197. On the Academies of Canaston and Gerbier, 317. On the Family of the Tradescants, 353. On Sir Francis Windibank's eldest son, 373. On the Authors of Leicester's Commonwealth, 374. On Moore's Almanac, 381. On Holywood the Mathematician, 389. On Whit Van Haemstede, 396. On the Author of Image of Both Churches, 407. On Kemble Pipe of Tobacco, 425. On Peter Sterry, 434. Rizzio David, his signature wanted, 390. R. J. On Leicester's Commonwealth, 29. On Mildew Books, 29. On the Autograph of Titus Oates, 27. R. J. C. On Christopher Fleckemore, 23. On Erasmus and Farrell, 38. On Travels of Baron Munchausen, 305. On the Origin of Lynch Law, 24. On the Situation of Portus Canum, 408. On Rodolph Galter, 8. On Swabers, 426. R. J. R. On Inscription in Limerick Cathedral, 477. R. J. Y. On Oxford Friars' Voyage, 168. R. L. M. M. On Arthur's Seat and Salisbury Craigs, 119. On Bab at the Bowster, 282. On the Episcopal Mitre, 146. On the Etymology of Covey, 477. On a work, Speculative Difficulties in Religion, 477. On Lammerbeads, 84. On an Old Scotch Tale, 265. R. M. C. On Midwives Licensed, 44. On Abbott's House at Buckden, 45. R. N. E. On Earth Thrown Upon the Coffin, 497. On Christmas Day, 249. On Form of Prayer for King's Evil, 42. 126. 352. On the Lincoln Missal, 192. On Rodolph Galter, 123. Robertii Sphaeria used as a medicine, 467. Robertson of Muirtown, 40. 77. Robertson, J. C. On Petworth Register, 485. Rock, Doctor, on Abbot Eustatius, 381. On the Meaning of Eisel, 397. On Vox Populi Vox Dei, 381. Rogers, Thomas, of Horninger, 62. Rolliard, Authors of the 129. 131, 276. 333, 334. Roman Catholic bishops in Ireland since James II, 167. Church, list of its sees, 168. 409, 437. Peers, 253. Roman medicine stamps, 328. Roads near London, 328. Rooms closed after death, 142. 248. Roper Margaret, her tenderness to the remains of Sir T. Moore, 10. Roper William J. D., on Private Memoirs of Queen Elizabeth, 45. Rose on the White, 407. 505. Rose under the phrase elucidated, 213. Rotation of the Earth, 371. Round Robin, its derivation, 353. 461. Rovert on the German Universities, 303. On Publican Signs, 424. Rowe Family, 408. 470. Rowley, Old, 28. Royal Courtly Garland, an Old Ballad, 1. R.S. P. O. On a List of Comets, 223. On Knights Hospitallers, 243. Rub-a-dub, its meaning, 387. Rudbeck's Atlantica, 26. 196. Kempi Ellisii, 167. Ruggles Ignoramus, Comoedia, 518. Rupert, Prince, Notices of, 221. R. W. On the Word Auriga, 483. R. W. B. On Old English Actors and Musicians in Germany, 21. R. W. J. D. On Preserving Existing Monuments, 314. B. C. S. S. On the Authorship of the Beggar's Petition, 209. On the Norman Nobility, 503. Sigma. On Going the Whole Hog, 224. On Innocent Convicts, 224. S. A. On Quotation. So Geographers on Afric's Downs, 372. Sabbatical and Jubilee Years of the Jews, 373. 464. Sacramental Wine, Administered to Weak Children, 179. 320. 368. Salgado's Slaughterhouse, 284. Sallustius, was he a lecturer? 325. 465. His connection with Tacitus, 325. Epistles to Caesar, 62. 140. Salopian, on Jews in China, 442. Sancroft, A.B.P., corrected Dillingham's poems, 323. Sanctorum Septem Dormientium Historia, its author? 139. Sanderson, Joan, and the Cushion Dance, 125. 286. Sangaree, its meaning, 141. Sangrail, explained, 224. 281. 282. 413. 482. San Marino, the Republic of, 321. 376. Sansom, J. On Drachmaris, 105. 194. On Durham's Sword That Killed the Dragon, 425. On the Custom of Shaking Hands, 118. On Defender of the Faith, 157. On Metrical Psalms, 198. On the Presentation of Gloves, 220. On Notices of Prince Rupert, 221. Sapphix, English, 494. 525. Sathaniel, when noticed? 303. Sournap, meaning of, 157. Savior, engraving of the, 168. 228. Saviour's, St. Church, Canterbury, 12. 90. S.B.S. On Quakers' attempt to convert the Pope, 302. Scaliger's of Verona, 133. 193. Scandinavia, Notes and Queries on, 370. Schmidt's Antiquitates Neomegenses, 328. School of the Heart, its author, 390. 469 S. C. N. On Theory of the Earth's Form, 508. Scott's Sir Walter, Lay of the Last Minstrel, 364. 367. 464. 505. Quotation from Lord of the Isles, 409. Marmion, on a passage in 203. Scotus on Lady Alice Carmichael, 60. Scot General, its author? 303. Scriblerus, emendation of a passage in Virgil, 237. Scrutator, on Lines on Woman, 143. S. E. On the Origin of the Word Venville, 152. Seats in Churches, 56. Secundus Johannes, extract from 135. Sedley's Poems, on a passage in, for 76. Sigard, or Seward John, his Poems, 261. S. E. J. On Topical Memory, 508. On Meaning of Carfooks, 508. Seleucus on Prince of Wales' Motto, 168. On the Redwing's Nest, 486. On Similia Similibus Curanter, 405. Selwyn E. J. On Porci Solidopedes, 357. 468. Sempectat Croyland, 328. 357. 433. Sirius, where situated. 494. Sermons, on Preaching from Written, 478. 526. Servants, their mode of being hired in Holderness, 328. Sewell, meaning of, 391. 482. 505. Severams, Histoire de 4. 72. 147. 148. 374. Sexes, their separation in church, 94. 288 S. F. On the occasional transmigration of the soul, 206. On moths called souls, 220. S. G. A. On Farrar and Bellows, 237. On Fronte Capillata, and c. 43. Shaftesbury, Earl of, his letter to Leclerc respecting Locke, 97. First Earl of, particulars wanted, 186. Shaking hands, origin of the custom, 118. Shakespeare family, 493. A thorough sailor, 300. His small Latin, 497. All's well that ends well, on two passages in, 177. Anthony and Cleopatra, 139. 190. His meaning of Captious, 65. 153. 229. 430. 474. 497. Cymbeline, on a passage in 290. His meaning of Isel, 66. 119. 210. 225. 397. 474. 508. 524. And Fletcher, 318. Hamlet, on a passage in 10. Henry VIII, authorship of 33. Love's Labour's Lost, Act 2. SC 1. 163. 230. Much Ado About Nothing, on a passage in 388. His meaning of Prenzy, 401. 454. 499. 522. His meaning of Ribauder Nag, 273. 464. Romeo and Juliet, Act 3. SC 1. 476. His meaning of Strained, 185. 269. Tempest on the Word Rack, 218. Most busy when least I do it, 229. 251. Troilus and Cressida, on a passage in 62. Venus and Adonis, 260. Winter's Tale, an Old Ballad on 1. Payne Collier's Note on the 101. Shap or Hep, Abbey of 7. Sheldon's Minstrelsy of the English Border, 49. Sheep, Cure of Disease by Means of, 320. 367. Shuriwile, A Mountain Spirit, 20. Shovel, Sir Cloudesley, 23. 45. Sicilian Vespers, 484. Sides and Angles, 265. Similia Similibus Curanter, 405. Simnel, Lambert, his real name, 390. 506. Sing on the Devil's Bit, 477. Singer S. W. On two passages in All's Well That Ends Well, 177. On Cain's Lessos, 212. On the Meaning of Eisel, 120. On Poems by C. Huygens, 423. On Felix Quem Facient, and c. 482. On Charming of Snails, 132. On The Soul's Dark Cottage, 154. On the Maxim, Lavora cum esse tu, and c. 226. On Shakespeare's Meaning of Ribaudered Nag, 273. On Latin Drinking Song by Braithwaite, 297. On the Family of the Tradescants, 391. On Latin Version of Robin Goodfellow, 402. On the Word Prenzy in Shakespeare, 456. A Passage in Romeo and Juliet, 476. Notes on Books, No. 1, 489. On the Tale of the Ward Staff, 57. Sitting cross-legged, 230. Sittings or statutes, what? 328, 396. Sixes and sevens, its meaning, 118. 425, S. J. Epitaph on Aelia Lelia Crispus, 504. On Athelney Castle, 478. On the Country of the Angles, 326. On A Remarkable Birth, 347. On Culprits Torn by Horses, 91. On Lines on the Temple Gate, 450. S. J. D. On William Chilcot, 212. On Queries on Costume, 155. On the Family of Sir George Downing, 68. On Edmund Prideaux, 268. S. J. E. R. On Catherine Barton, 328. S. J. H. On Stella being Swift's sister, 450. On Brewhouse Antiquities, 447. On the Hereditary Earl Marshal, 209. Skeletons at Egyptian Banquet, 424. 482. Skins Crossing Rivers on 3. 83. 397. Skort, its meaning, 302. Sky, Strange Appearances in, 298. S.L. On a Passage in Merchant of Venice, 185. Slab, an incised one, 373. Slingsby's, Sir Henry, Diary, 323. 357. Slums, meaning of, 224. 284. S. Maria, on Charles Lamb's Epitaph, 322. Smirk, E. On Burning the Hill, 123. On Herstmans's Castle, 124. On Meaning of Venville, 355. Smirk, S. On the Chapel of Loreto, 205. On San Marino, 321. Smith, Henry, Notices of, 222. Smith, T. C. On Anticipations of Modern Ideas, 287. On Poetical Coincidences, 320. Smith, W. H. Bernhard, on the Frozen Horn, 282. On the Sword Flamberg, 292. Smith, W. J. B. On Cross Between Dog and Wolf, 93. On the Lancastrian Rose, 407. On a Poem from the Digby Misses, 482. On Robertson Struan, 77. On the Sword of William the Conqueror, 66. Smoking Antiquity of, 484. 507. Smollett's Celebrated Hugh Strap, 123. S.N. On North Side of Churchyards, 333. Snail, Charming of, 132. 179, 207. Eating, 207. 221, 336. Sneak, Jerry, on apple pie order, 330. 480, SN. J, on homemade wines, 328. On touching for the evil, 93. On separation of sexes in church, 94. Snow, Robert, on the mythology of the stars, 70. 155. On Fronte Capillata, 286. On Foucault's pendulum experiment, 371. On paternoster tackling, 152. On outline in painting, 154. On a passage in Tennyson's In Memoriam, 227. On Touchstone's dial, 107. On the meaning of waste book, 195. S.O. On commoner marrying a peeress, 436. Somnium Viridarii, 87. Sophocles, Essay on the Irony of, 389. 484. Soul, its occasional transmigration, 206. Soli, Charles O. On Pallavicino, 478. Southey's March to Moscow, 243. S. P. On the etymology of extradition, and c. 169. S. P. C. S. On the story of a relic, 234. On Duchess of Buckingham, 280. Spectator, Dutch version of, 22. Speculative difficulties in religion, wanted, 477. Spencer, Birth of, 510. Portraits of, 301. Fairy Queen, Notes, 369. 517. Spirion on a Kemble Pipe, 502. Spes, Inquiries respecting Mr. Beard, 140. On Morse and Iraton families, 250. On engraved warming pans, 290. Spick and span new, its meaning, 330. Spiders, 3. Spirit, on the lingering of the 84. Sponge, when first known, 390. Spurl, W. On biddings in Wales, 115. SSJ. On derivation of aver, 292. SS. On by and by, 75. On the motto, Nullus fraus tuta latibris, 329. On Sir Alex. Coming, 39. SSS. On the badge of the Knights of Malta, 278. On haybands and seals, 291. On Maserwood, 467. On mistletoe on the oak, 462. On the meaning of tinsel, 477. On Wither's Hallelujah, 330. Stanbridge Earls, 518. Standfast's Cordial Comforts, 143. 192, 285. Stanedge Pole, where? 390. Stars, Mythology of the 23. 70. 508. Steam Power, its inventor, 23. Stevens, George, Notices of 119. 230. 286. Stevens, George, on Adams King's Messengers, 135. On Inquiries respecting Rev. W. Adams, 140. On Barlam and Josaphat, 396. On Bunting's Irish Melodies, 167. On the derivation of Harlequin, 465. On the meaning of San Grail, 413. On the meaning of Sauernap, 157. On Touchstone's Dial, 52. Stepney Ale, 449. Sterry, Peter, Inquiry respecting his miscellaneous tracts, and c. 38. 434. Stevens, Captain, John, Notices of 306. Stevens, David, on Defoe's project for purifying the English language, 350. Stevens, Philo, on meaning of Pidal, 391. Stevens, William, Notices of 230. 286. S. T. G. On a complete edition of the poems of Henryson and Douglas, 38. Sticks a planting stop, how came it? 278. Storms from conjuring 404. Straw necklaces worn by servants to be hired 229. 253. Strutt's Queen Who Hall 105. Subscriber, anew, on the House of Mail 351. On Barker, the Panorama Painter 483. On the expression, to learn by heart 425. Sum, its etymology 7. 75. 212. Supporters borne by commoners 224. Surname, origin of A 323. S. W. On lines attributed to Charles York 43. Swan J. On Pope's Honest Factor 518. Swans, the singing of 75. Hatch during thunder 75. Swearing by 29. 70, 71. 192. 308. 438 Swedish Bibliognist on Rudbeck's Campi Elysii 167. Swift, Dean, was Stella his sister? 450. S. W. F. On Shakespeare's use of captious 229. Swinging Tureen 29. S. W. M. On Wilkes Misses and North Britain 241. Swabbers Privileged Cards 426. Swords used in dress 29. S. W. S. On the Foundation Stone of St. Mark's, Venice 147. S. Y. On Fleet Marriages 4. On Marsh's Female Captive 423. On Milkmaids in 1753 367. Syriac Scriptures and Lexicon, the best edition 263. Synonyms, English 166. Sigma. T. T. On Double Names 407. On the Real Name of Lambert Simnel 396. On the Election of a Pope 142. On the Phrase to A.T. 424. On Dr. Trussler's Memoirs 61. Taggart, Edward on Rev. Mr. Gay 424. Talbots, Their Genealogy 39. Tale of a Tub 28. Talk Not of Love, A Song 7. 77. 197. Tandem D. O. M. 62. 173. Tanthony Bell 103. 229. 308. 428. 484. Tatler, Dutch version of 22. Tattersall, The Biographer of Merrick 60. Taylor F. S. On Record of Existing Monuments 218. On Holland Land 229. On the Hippopotamus 181. On Arms of the Isle of Man 510. On Matrix of Monastic Seal 263. On Crossing Rivers on Skins 398. Taylor, J. On Lunardi's Balloon 153. Taylor's Jeremy, His Holy Living 43. MS Sermons by 249. Taylor, John, on the Word Prenzy 499. On a Passage in the Tempest 251. On a Passage in Troilus and Cressida 62. Taylor's Pretended Reprint of Ancient Poetry 172. T. C. On the Great Exhibition 166. T.B. On the Descent of Henry IV 120. On Rowe Family 408. On Villenage 410. Tell William, The Legend of 187. Tempest, Mrs. Some Account of 11. Templegate, Lines on 450. 505. Temple, The Outer 325. 375. 451. 10 Children at a Birth 64. Tennyson, Illustrations of 349. A Passage explained in 10. Queries on 493. In Memoriam, Lines on 142. 227. 506. Terra Martis on the Present Race of English 116. T. E. S. On Ace of Diamonds, 142. On the origin of St. Andrew's Cross, 221. T. On Butchers Not Jurymen, 408. On E Justum Farini, 433. T.F.W. On the Bellman and His History, 325. Thanksgiving Book, what? 328. 481. Thesaurarius Hospitu, the Office of 105. 135. T.H.G. On Coleridge's Religious Musings, 115. On Derivation of Herensos, 507. On the Evil Eye. 133. On Mottos on Warming Pans, and c. 84. On Quinces, 20. On Annoy used as a noun, 43. On the Potters and Shepherds' Keepsakes, 181. On the Crossbill, 188. On Ladies' Trees, 206. On Lent Lilies, 259. On Verse Lion, 307. On May Cats, 20. On Millery! Dousty Pole, 133. On Clerical Costume, 29. On Swinging Tureen, 29. On the World. Alarm, 30. On the San Grail, 282. On Tale of a Tub, 28. On Totnes Church, 29. On Well Chapels, 478. Thk. On Dog's Head in the Pot, 463. On the Prideaux Family, 398. On a Tie, 469. Thomas, St. of Lancaster, 339. Of Trummons, who was he? 187. 252. Tomlinson, Dr. Robert, Notices of 290. Toms, William J. On Chaucer and Gray, 492. Thornborough's B.P. Monument, 168. 299. Thoresby's M.S. Diary, a portion missing, 247. Thornbury, G. W. On Nonsuch Palace, 237. Threnodia Carolina of Sir T. Herbert, 157. 223. 359. Thrushcross, Dr. Timothy, Notices of 44. Thud on the First Use of Sponge, 390. Tick, on Going, 357. 409. 502. Tickle, Richard, Notice of 276. 334. Tickhill, God help me! 340. Tierney M. A. On the Writers in the Life of Pope Ganganelli, 12. T.I.H. On Krakow Pike, 118. 187. Tyndall, Dr. H. Epitaph on, 493. Tingry in France, 464. Tinsel, its meaning, 477. Tiring Irons, a puzzle so called, 210. T. J. F. On the initials M, or N, 437. T. J. H. On Dutch Martyrology, 443. T. J. M. On Charles I. In Wales, 380. T. J. R. D. On the Family of Roe, 470. T. K. I. P. B. On the Meaning of Skort, 302. On Small Words and Low Words, 309. T. M. J. On Barons of Hugh Lupus, 189. On Catalogue of Norman Nobility, 306. Tn. On the Advantage of a Bad Ear, 140. On Cross Between a Wolf and Hound, 39. T. On the Syriac Scriptures and Lexicon, 263. Toads, 3. Tobacco in the East, 306. Toothache Charm for the, 20. Topical Memory, where treated of. 449. 508. Torrey, James, wife of, 329. 434. Toro, a Note on Dress, 406. Totnes Church, 29. Touchstone's Dial, 52. 107. 196. Tracy, W. M. Disinterred for Heresy, 240. 378. Tradescants, family of the 119. 286. 353. 391. 393. 469. Tradesmen's signs, 224. 285. Traditions from remote periods through few links, 206. 237. 289. 421. Treherne's Sheriffs of Glamorgan wanted, 186. Trepidation talked. Its meaning, 450. 485. Trevelyan W. C. On apple pie order, 485. On Durham's sword, 485. On fossil elk of Ireland, 212. On the Oldenburg horn, 509. On the authors of the Ralliad, 129. Trg. On charm for the toothache, 20. Trinitol Hall's exequies, 203. 252. Trisection of the circle, 303. Tristan da Cunha, 29. True Blue, 27. 71, 92. 116. 194. Trussler, Rev. Doctor, his Memoirs, 61. 110. Truth, an unedited ballad on, 134. T.S. On Coleridge's opinion of Defoe, 136. T.S. P.H. On fossil elk of Ireland, 121. T. On Robert Burton, 157. T.C. On Newburgh Hamilton, 356. On umbrellas, 482. T.J. On the derivation of gooseberry fool, 496. To autumn, its meaning, 265. 308. 435. Turner Dawson, on authors of the Ralliad, and pursuits of literature, 277. Turner T. Hudson, on hay bands and seals, 291. Turning the tables, on the phrase, 276. Twisden, Sir Roger, his incredulity, 444. Tie, what is it? 263, 340. 469. Tyro on the authorship of Cinquante Lettres d'Exhortation, 169. On the meaning of Deformis, 24. On Oration against Demosthenes, 227. On Dodd, the historian, 496. On Engelbert, Archbishop of Treves, 379. On Bishop Hooper's Godly Confession, 227. On Rodolph Galter, 43. Tyro Etymologicus on M, or N, 436. U. B. On Dutch Martyrology, 479. Ulm Manuscript, 60. 191. 269. Umbrellas, 37. 126. 482. On Cumber and the Offering of Oaths, 404. Usher's Works, on the Completion of, 496. V. On Tennyson's In Memoriam, 506. On Allusion in Trinitol Hall's Exequies, 252. On the Derivation of Voltaire, 329. Van Dyck's Portrait of Lord Aubigny, 88. Vane, Sir Harry, Inquiry for his Work, of the Love of God, 38. Varro on the Meaning of Auriga, 188. On the Phrase, To Speak in Lutestring, 188. On Gray and Burns, 206. On an Extract from Johannes Secundus, 135. On Samuel Johnson and Gilbert Wakefield, 138. Vavasor Family, 71. Vaughan, Sir John, Notices of, 223. V.E. On Bogatsky, 478. On the Authorship of Groves of Blarney, 495. On Handel's Occasional Oratorio, 426. On the Conversion of William Hone, 477. Vegetable Sympathy, 407. Vegetating Insects, 166. 398. 436. Venables E. On origin of penny postage 6. Vendis, a fish, 301. Venwell, or Vendel, its meaning 38. 152. 310. 355. Verbum Graecum, 396. Ventriloquist hoax, 406. Verstegen's restitution of decayed intelligence, 85. 426. Poems, 85. Portrait wanted, 426. Virtuous Woman, a poem from the Harleian Misses, 219. Viator on vegetating insects, 436. Villenage, when extinct, 327. 410. Villiers, Duke of Buckingham, 263. Vincent, R., on Fest and Sittings, 396. Vineyard, the name of certain places, 470. Vineyards in England, 341. 483. Virgil, emendation of a passage in, 237. 357. Vitus, St., notices of, 241. Volpe Iovani, particulars wanted, 188. Voltaire, its derivation, 329. 433. 525. Epitaph on, 518. Henriade, translation of, 330. 388. 485. Volusinus or Wilson, 29. Vox Populi Vox Dei, 288. 381. V. R. On Swearing by Swans, 71. On the Division of the Ten Commandments, 230. W. W. 1. On Inscription on a Clock, 430. On the Work Jartuaire, 89. On the Residence of William Wallace, 59. W. A. C. On Epigram on a Clock, 431. Wages in the Last Century, 143. 285. Waistcoat Bursted, and c. 230. Waldeby's Archbishop, Epitaph, 426. Walcott Mackenzie, on God's Acre, 380. Wales, Princesses of, 477. Walker, Mrs. Elizabeth, a collateral relation to Shakespeare, 21. Wallace, William, where did he reside? 59. Walter, Henry, on Coverdale's Bible, 122. Wanton's Deliviagi, its republication, 277. Wardstaff, the Tale of the 57. Warming Pans, engraved 84. 115. 290. Warrant, an original one from the Surrenden collection, 220. Waste Book, its meaning, 118. 195. 307. 465. What the Hare, 44. Water buckets given to sheriffs, 118. Water, Welsh words 430. 152. Way, Albert, on Lammer beads, 100. On the foundation stone of St. Mark's, Venice, 147. On Gloucestershire provincialisms, 204. On the meaning of remashed, 347. On a superstitious use of sacramental wine, 179. On specimens of foreign English, 182. Whelan on Lord Bexley's descent, 250. On lady fights at Atherton, 143. On sketches of Civil War garrisons, 142. On meaning of Recubus, 302. On Wither's Devil at Sarum, 142. On battle in Wiltshire, 142. W. B. On the word bacon, 42. Notices of Herstmans's Castle, 28. 29. W. C. On the authors of the Raleighed, 129. W. D. P. On the phrase, by the by, 229. On Obiism, 150. Weary Well at the World's End, a Tale, 265. W. Edmund, on Treherne's Sheriffs of Glamorgan, 186. Wedsknarf on Boiling to Death, 153. On Dozen of Bread, 153. On Anecdotes of Old Times, 275. Queries on Costume 88. On Earl of Clarendon's Daughter 88. On Friday Weather 153. Weld C. R. On Judge's Walk, Hampstead 4. Well Chapels, Information Wanted of 478. Welly, Robert de, Notice of 458. Welsh History, Illustrations of 447. W. E. N. On the First Panorama 526. Westchester, Why So Designated 353. 459. 460. Westminster Abbey, Fees at 276. Library of the Church of 152. 230. Westmoreland, Lady Jane of 68. Weston on Going to Old Weston 449. W. E. N. On Friday Being Unlucky 496. On the Arches of Pelaga 522. On Nicholas' History of the Royal Navy 328. On St. Olave's Churches 373. On Robertii Spheria 467. W. G. W. On a Satirical Medal 240. W. H. On the Meaning of Ratche 265. On Sun, Stand Thou Still upon Gideon 191. Whale Caught at Greenwich 207. 285. Wheeler's Theological Lectures 39. W. H. H. On Inscription on the Bear's Bible 329. Whip, 1 Corporal, on Records at Malta 180. White A. Holt, on the Mistletoe and Oak 462. On Thanksgiving Book 481. On Carved Ceiling in Dorsetshire 481. On Old Rowley 28. On a Tie 263. On Tanthony Bell at Kimbolton 429. White Rose on Crucifix of Mary Queen of Scots 517. Whiting, Richard, His Watch Inquired After 352. W. H. P. On Moore's Almanac 263. Whitechote of St. John's 302. Widow of the Wood, Historical Notice of 13. Wild G. J. De on Eddie the Artist 496. On the Author of Peter Wilkins 13. Wilkes Mrs. and North Britain 241. Wilkinson T. T. On Lancashire Folklore 55. William A. P. Javant's Descendants 372. William the Conqueror, His Sword 24. 66. Williams, Archbishop, His Portrait 8. 75. 152. Sir C. Hanbury, Ballad ascribed to him 59. Wiltshire Battle in, between Rupert and Skippon 142. Windibank, Sir F. His elder son 373. Window Tax, Its Origin 447. Wines, Homemade 328. Winifreda, A Psalm 27. 108. 155. Winkle, Its Etymology 138. Wispy, Gothland 75. Witchcraft, Instances of 444. Witch's Prayer, an Epigram 118. Witham, H. On Defender of the Faith 94. Whether the Queen Can Make a Gentleman? 88. Wither, George, the Poet, a Printer 36. Hallelujah 330. Devil at Sarum 142. Wit Van Haemstede, His Descendants 209. 396. Umson S. On the Right Divine of Kings to Govern Wrong 494. On Marriage is Such a Rabble Rout 263. Notices of Zachary Boyd 500. W. J. Notice of Miss Elstob 497. On the Daughters of the 6th Earl of Lennox 243. W. J. K. R. On Richard Standfast 192. On Sixes and Sevens 425. W. J. R. On Athelney 478. W. J. S. On Shakespeare's use of captious, 65. 430. Wobbles, Colley, on Stanbridge Earls, 518. Waterspoon, J. On St. Thomas's Onions, 252. Wolsey, Cardinal, Particulars of his Son, 303. Woman, Lines on, 143. Woman's Will, Lines on, 285. Wood engraving, Account of a Large, 277. 436. Words, Small and Low, 309. W. R. E. On Cranmer's Descendants, 188. W. R. M. On the Etymology of Sim, 212. Writing paper, Its Present Inferiority, 181. 397. W. T. C. On Notices of Harris the Painter, 329. W. W. On the Hand Giving the Blessing, 509. W. W. E. On the Phrase, A Regular Mall, 449. W. W. H. On the Meaning of Herisus, 252. W. W. M. On the Meaning of Slums, 224. Window O. T. Notice of Mrs. Tempest, 11. X. X. On Carling Sunday, 449. X. A. L. On Chaucer's 50 Weeks, 252. Xavier, Count de Maistre, 227. 467. X. D. On the Word Benedicite, 468. On Bassinet of Ayton, 495. On Handel's Occasional Oratorio, 480. On the Birth of Spenser, 510. On Registry of Dissenting Baptisms, 370. 524. On Verbum Graecum, 396. X. X. Inquiry respecting A.B.P. Bolton, 39. On Deans being styled Very Reverend, 352. Y. Y. On an answer to Cowley's poem on drinking, 55. Yale, J. On 2 Autumn, 436. Yankee, derivation of, 260. 437. 461. Y. D. On Denarius Philosophorum, 168. On the Line, Sees God in Everything, 168. Y. D. A. On Lady Bingham, 156. Y. E. H. On Countess of Desmond, 341. On the Bonny Cravat, 351. On Northage Family, 425. On the Arms of the Emiot Family, 478. On the Genealogy of the Talbots, 39. On the Use of M, or N, 323. On the Phrase, Under the Rose, 300. Y. E. H. On the Sword of William the Conqueror, 66. Yowell, James, on Verstegan's Decayed Intelligence in Antiquities, 85. On Verstegan's Poems, 85. Y. J. On Catalogues of Coins of Canute, 525. On North Sides of Churchyards, 333. On Dutch Church in Norwich, 340. On Errors in Dibdin's Library Companion, 405. On Dr. Owen's Unpublished Sermons, 435. On Pontoppidan's Natural History of Norway, 526. Y. J. F. On Portrait of Rev. S. Clark, 284. York, Charles, Lines attributed to him, 43. 72. Young's Dr. Narcissa, 422. Y. V. X. On Mounds, Months, and C. 413. Y. Y. On Portraits of Bishops, 8. Z. Z. A. On the Memoir of George Stevens, 119. Zeteticus on Early Notices of the Resurrection, 374. Zollverein, Its Meaning, 451. Z. X. On Swearing by Swans, 192. On By and By, 193. On Cum Grano Salis, 253. On the King of Nineveh Burning Himself, 408. On Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra, 139. On a passage in Tennyson's In Memoriam, 10. 227. On Pilgarlic, 150. X. On Cardinal Allen's Declaration, 11. End of the third volume. Printed by Thomas Clark Shaw, of No. 8. New Street Square, at No. 5. New Street Square, in the parish of St. Bride in the City of London, and published by George Bell, of No. 186. Fleet Street, in the parish of St. Dunstan in the West, in the City of London, publisher, at No. 186. Fleet Street aforesaid. Saturday, July 12, 1851. Thomas Clark Shaw. George Bell.